The wedding ring hit the marble with a sound she would never forget. Danielle Harper is 33 years old, a black woman, a philanthropist who runs the largest foundation for black women in Koreatown. She wears emerald silk with African gold embroidery like armor. Her waist is small. Her back is straight. Her name opens boardrooms. Her husband is Kang Ji-hoon. The Korean Mafia calls him Snow Wolf. A black dragon tattoo climbs the right side of his neck and disappears behind his ear. His suits are cut by hand. His watch is worth a house. Everyone in Seoul, Los Angeles bows when he passes. That morning he groaned in bed, held his stomach, whispered that the pain was bad. Danielle canceled her agenda, kissed his forehead, promised to come back early. She left in the emerald dress, worried. The moment the door closed, the pain vanished from his face. At the office, an auditor named Henry Choi placed a yellow folder in front of Danielle. Inside were transfers signed by her mother-in-law, Sun Hee, foundation money, money meant for black women, routed to a name she did not recognize, Seo Yuna. Danielle looked at the folder for a long time. Then she stood up, told her driver to take her home. She arrived earlier than anyone expected. A woman's shoe was on the corridor floor. Laughter came from behind her bedroom door. She placed her hand on the handle. But what she saw in that room was only the beginning. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. Danielle pressed the back of her hand against Ji-hoon's forehead and felt nothing. No fever, no sweat, only the cool skin of a man who had slept well. He groaned anyway, a low, curling sound, the kind of pain that folded a body into itself. His hand went to his stomach and stayed there, fingers spread wide across the black silk of the pajama top. "It came back," he whispered, worse this time. She sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress barely moved under her. Danielle had learned years ago how to lower her weight onto a sick man without waking the ache. She had practiced it on her father in Atlanta, then on her mother, then on a stranger she once found collapsed in a hospital corridor because no one else was walking that way. She was 33 years old and she still moved like a nurse. Ji-hoon closed his eyes. His lashes were long enough to touch the pillow. "Tell Choi to cancel the Busan call," he said. "He already did. I told him last night. Tell him again." She smoothed the sheet across his chest. The emerald green of her dress caught the morning light and threw it back at the ceiling in a pale swimming shape. The dress was one he had bought her, or had asked Mrs. Im to buy on his behalf, silk with a spread of golden leaves crawling up the hem toward her hip. It fit her the way she liked things to fit. Nothing loose, nothing sorry. Ji-hoon opened one eye and looked at her. "You're going out. I have the foundation review at 10. Cancel it." "I won't." The eye stayed on her a moment longer, then closed again. He shifted onto his side, away from her, and pulled his knees up half an inch. A performance of pain, she thought, without knowing she was thinking it. She only knew that her hand had stopped stroking the sheet, and that she had already begun to breathe the way she breathed when a patient's vitals disagreed with the chart. She stood. Her heels clicked once against the wood as she rounded the bed to the water carafe. She poured a glass and set it beside him on the nightstand. Beside the glass she placed 2 white capsules from the silver dish, the ones his doctor had prescribed months ago for the ulcer that his doctor had never actually found. "Take them now. After you leave." "Now," he sighed. He lifted his head and swallowed them dry, ignoring the water. The dragon on the right side of his neck rippled as his throat worked. Its black scales climbed from his collarbone up behind his ear, tail curled where a normal man would wear a chain. She had loved that tattoo once. She had traced it with her mouth on their honeymoon in Jeju, laughing when the wine made her clumsy, and he had told her that the dragon meant winter, and that winter meant patience, and she had believed him because he was the kind of man whose lies still tasted like truth in the morning. "I'll be back by 4, she said. "Earlier if I can. Don't rush. I always rush for you." She said it lightly. He did not answer. She bent and pressed her mouth to the top of his hair, breathing the cedar of his shampoo, and for a half-second she thought about crawling in beside him and calling Mrs. Im to bring congee and clearing her calendar for the rest of the week. Instead, she straightened. She lifted her handbag off the chaise. She walked out. The corridor was long and lined with a pale runner the color of oatmeal. Kang men in dark suits stood at 3 positions along the wall and did not look at her as she passed, which was the polite way for them to look. She had been Mrs. Kang for 4 years. She had learned that respect in this house was a matter of angle. Mrs. Im waited at the top of the stairs with a small thermos. "Cheonggukjang broth," the housekeeper said in her careful English. "For the stomach. He'll drink it if you tell him to drink it." "He won't." "I know." Mrs. Im's face was round and calm and did nothing that the corridor could later report. But her eyes stayed on Danielle a beat past the polite length. Danielle noticed. She did not know yet why she noticed. She took the thermos and slid it into her bag. "Thank you, Sukja." "Drive careful, ma'am." Downstairs, the marble was cold enough through her heels to feel it in the bones of her feet. Sun-hee was in the small salon by the front door, seated on the low bench under the scroll painting of a mountain in fog, wearing a burgundy hanbok that made her look like a woman waiting for a photograph. Her jade bracelet caught the light and threw a green splinter across the floor. "You are leaving him," Sun-hee said. "I'm going to work. He is unwell. He is under care." The old woman smiled. It was a small, tight, exact smile, the kind that arrived on schedule. "A wife's place is a matter my husband and I decide." Sun-hee's smile did not move. Her hands stayed folded on her lap. She was 62, and she weighed maybe 110 pounds, and she frightened Danielle more than any man in the house, though Danielle would rather have gone home to Atlanta with nothing than admit that out loud. "Have a productive day, my daughter. Rest well, Yomioni." Danielle walked past her without slowing. She heard the small silk sound of Sun-hee rising as soon as her back was turned. Mr. Chung had the car at the front steps. He held the door and did not speak. He never spoke unless she asked a question, and today she did not ask one. The seat leather was cool against the backs of her thighs. She slid in, set the handbag on her knee, and watched the wrought iron gate roll open. Then she looked back. The house on the hill rose against a sky the color of milk, 3 stories of white stone and dark timber, the kind of house that photographed like a diplomat's home in a magazine spread. Her house, their house, the house whose deed had her name on it and whose walls she still felt she was renting. The gate closed. Mr. Chung took the coastal road because he knew she liked the coastal road. She lowered the window an inch. The air smelled of sea salt and diesel and, faintly, of the plum blossoms someone was pruning behind a wall she could not see. She opened her phone and typed "home by 4, broth" in the small thermos. "Take it." She did not send it. She saved it to drafts and put the phone face down on the leather. At the second traffic light, she felt the wedding ring on her left hand. She turned it once, twice. A habit. The metal was warm from her skin. She thought, without letting the thought finish, that a man in real pain does not open his eye to check whether his wife is dressed for the world. She closed the thought inside a drawer in her head and slid the drawer shut. By the time the car reached the tunnel, she was preparing 3 things at once in her mind: the grant approvals waiting on her desk, the auditor Choi's fresh files that had come in overnight, and the seating for the quarterly board dinner. She was good at holding 3 things. She had held 5 before. She did not know that back at the house, in the master bedroom, Ji-hoon had already sat up. He swung his legs off the bed and stretched. He rolled his neck once, twice. The dragon flexed. He stood, walked to the window, and pushed the curtain aside with 2 fingers to watch the taillights of the Mercedes disappear around the curve of the drive. Then he pulled off the pajama top and threw it on the chair. He crossed to the intercom on the wall and pressed the button. His voice, when it came, was clean and dry and awake. "She's gone." Sun-hee's voice came back, small through the speaker. "The girl is on her way." He nodded. He unpressed the button. He walked into the shower. At the side gate of the compound, a black taxi slowed and stopped without being asked. The driver had been paid at the previous corner. He did not look at his passenger as she opened her own door. She stepped out onto the flagstones in stiletto heels that were the wrong shape for stone. So Yuna carried a small clutch under her arm and a paper bag from a bakery in Cheongdam-dong in her right hand. The bakery was a detail Sun-hee had thought of. A woman visiting a sick man would bring pastries. A woman visiting an awake man would not. Yuna had asked no questions when the errand appeared on her phone that morning. She never asked questions when the errands came with a Cartier bracelet included. The side door opened before she rang. Sun Hee stood inside, hanbok immaculate, hands folded. "You are 5 minutes early." "I did not want to be late." Sun Hee's eyes moved over her once. The dress was too short for the hour and too red for the house, and Sun Hee approved of both with a single tilt of her head. "He is upstairs, second corridor, third door on the right." The wife. On her way to the office. She will not be back until 4. Yuna smiled. Her teeth were very small and very white. She stepped past the older woman and walked into the corridor as if she had memorized the map of the house from a bird's view, which she had. Sun Hee closed the side door. She stood a moment inside the vestibule, one hand resting on the bracelet at her wrist. The jade felt warmer than usual against her pulse. She permitted herself a small breath through the nose. She had waited 4 years for the day this specific young woman would walk this specific corridor. She returned to the salon under the mountain scroll and sat down to wait. Danielle's office was on the 38th floor of the Kang Harper building in Gangnam. The name was on the granite outside and on the reception wall in brushed steel, and, more importantly, on the founding documents in the vault under her office. 2 names. Hers second only in the letterhead, but first in the numbers no one talked about at dinner. Mr. Chung dropped her at the private entrance. The elevator opened to her private lobby. All white marble and pale wood, a spray of white orchids that Mrs. Han refreshed every 3rd day. Danielle liked orchids because they demanded almost nothing. She had learned that from her grandmother, who had grown them in a Georgia kitchen window over a sink that never had hot water. Her assistant Jenny stood up when she saw her. "Mr. Choi is in your office already, ma'am. He came up 10 minutes ago. He asked if he could wait." Danielle stopped walking. "He didn't have an appointment until 11. He said it was better to be early." "He said that in those words?" "Yes, ma'am." Danielle looked at the closed door of her office. Henry Choi was the head of audit for the entire Kang Harper structure. He was 50 years old, wore glasses too old for his salary, and had never in 3 years arrived early to a meeting or late to leave one. He measured everything, including the way he timed himself. "Coffee for both of us," she said. "No milk in his." She opened her own door. Henry was standing by the window with his back to her. He held a yellow legal folder against his chest with both hands. He did not turn until she had closed the door behind her. "Danielle?" "Henry." He did not offer to shake her hand. He walked to her desk instead and laid the folder down on it, and only then did he look at her. "I need you to read this before anyone else comes into the room." She sat. The chair was low and firm. She hooked one heel behind the other and pulled the folder across the desk. Inside were 12 pages. She read the first one twice. 6 transfers, made over the past 9 months, from the Kang Harper Foundation for Black Women Entrepreneurs to a numbered account at a private bank in Singapore. Each transfer between $180,000 and $240,000 US. Each authorization page signed with the electronic key of the foundation's board chair, Kang Sun-hee. Danielle turned to the second page. The Singapore account had a beneficial owner. The name was printed in Roman letters and again in Hangul beside it, Co. Yuna. She had never heard the name before in her life. She was almost sure of that. Almost. There was a flicker at the edge of her memory, the way one senses a moth in a dark room without seeing it, but she could not close her hand on it. She turned to the third page. There was a photograph clipped to the corner. A young Korean woman, 27 or 28, coming out of a boutique with a shopping bag in each hand. Long black hair to her waist, a red mouth. A bracelet that Danielle recognized as the same Cartier love model that Ji-hoon had once considered buying for her and then had not bought, because she had said she preferred a plainer band. She closed the folder. When did this start? The first transfer was in October last year. The last one was 11 days ago. How did you find it? I have a new junior. She's very thorough. She was reconciling the foundation's disbursements against the grantee reports, and she noticed that a recipient code was appearing in the ledger with no matching grantee file. She brought it to me on Friday, and you sat on it through the weekend. I sat on it, Danielle, because I wanted to be sure. I've now been sure since Sunday night. She looked at his face. He had aged in the 3 years she had known him, but not in the last 3 days. He was steady. He was frightened, but he was steady. Who else knows? The junior. Me. Now you. Keep it that way. Yes. She stood. She walked to the window and rested her fingertips on the glass. Seoul lay below her in the morning haze, buildings sliding into buildings, and somewhere out on the coastal road her Mercedes was probably already coming back for her without her asking, because Mr. Chung always came back too early. She thought of her mother in Atlanta saying, "When a thing does not smell right, do not eat it. Do not smell it again, do not lift the lid, push the plate away." She thought of the black silk pajama and the cool forehead. "Henry," she said, without turning around, "I need 3 things by lunch. I need the complete transfer chain, including the correspondent banks. I need to know if any of those transfers pass through any Kang-owned entity, even a laundry. And I need you to pull the beneficiary's KYC file from Singapore, whatever you can get, through whatever channel doesn't leave a footprint in this building. Yes. You do not talk to anyone about this, not Jenny, not the CFO, not your wife. No. If Sun Hee's electronic key was used, I want to know whether she pressed it herself or whether someone pressed it for her." There was a pause. "You already suspect." "I am asking a question." "Yes." She turned around. Henry was still holding the folder against his chest, even though the folder was on her desk. "One more thing," she said. "The junior. What's her name?" "Ha-Jin-ah. Move her office to the 29th floor. Give her a raise of 30%, effective today, and tell her it's for the quarter she just closed. Do it before you send the audit trail. You want her insulated." "I want her paid." Henry nodded once. He picked up the folder. He walked to the door and stopped with his hand on it. "Danielle, whatever this is, do not confront it in that house. I know. Do not eat there tonight." "I know." He left. Danielle stood at the window for another minute without moving. Then she went back to her desk and opened the top drawer and took out a small notebook with a black leather cover. She wrote 3 names on the first blank page. Kang Sun-hee, Seo Yuna, Kang Ji-hoon. She looked at the third name a long time. She did not add a question mark. She did not underline it. She simply closed the notebook and put it in the pocket of her handbag, the one with the zipper. Jenny knocked and came in with 2 coffees. Danielle took hers black. "Move the 10 o'clock foundation call to 11:30, she said. "Push the 11:30 legal to 2. Get Adrian Wallace on the line for me at 12 sharp, priority." "Yes, ma'am." "And Jenny, tell Mr. Chung I want the car ready to leave the building at 3:15 sharp. Not 3:30, 3:15. "Home?" Danielle looked at her assistant. Jenny was 24 and eager and completely uninvolved in anything that mattered, which was the only reason she still had this job. "Yes," Danielle said. "Home." Jenny left. The door closed. Danielle picked up the coffee. Her hand did not shake, and she was almost surprised by that, but she had been almost surprised by her own steadiness before. She had watched her father die in a hospice bed the year she turned 21, and had signed the release forms with a hand that did not shake. And she had opened her mother's diagnosis letter 3 years later with a hand that did not shake. And now she was going to drink black coffee at 9:40 in the morning, in a corner office 38 floors above Seoul, with a hand that did not shake. She thought of the wedding ring. She turned it once on her finger, under the desk, where no one could see. Then she began to work. She approved 4 grant packages in 20 minutes. She read a memo from legal about a labor arbitration in Ulsan. She called the head of the Atlanta Scholarship Program, a woman named Deborah, with a voice like her mother's, and listened to a 2-minute update on a girl who was starting Spelman in the fall on Kang Harper money. She wrote a personal note on foundation stationery to the girl and slid it into the outgoing tray for Jenny to mail. The foundation was the only thing in this life that was fully hers. Ji-hoon had made her put her name on it at the beginning, when he was still courting her, when he was still using words like partner and equal and mine, in ways that felt like promises rather than paperwork. She had let him because she believed that a man who wanted her name on a foundation for black women wanted her, not a version of her. Now she wondered when he had stopped wanting anything but the version. At 11:45, she walked to the small private washroom off her office and stood in front of the mirror. She retouched her lipstick. She looked at her own eyes for 4 full seconds. She did not look away. At noon, Adrian Wallace called from Los Angeles. Danielle picked up on the first ring. "You said priority. I need you in Seoul by tomorrow night." There was a pause on the other end. In the pause, Danielle could hear a plane taking off somewhere on Adrian's side of the world. "Give me the shape of it." My marriage. My foundation. Possibly my company. Bring Park. He's in Singapore. Pull him. Give me a corridor. What is the outcome you want? Danielle looked at the window, and at the small, wet shape her fingertips had left on the glass an hour earlier, and that was now almost gone. I want to be standing when he understands what has happened. I want everyone else in that room to be sitting. Understood. Adrienne. Yes. Book your flight under a different name. Any name. I don't care whose. Done. The line went quiet. Danielle set the phone down on the desk, screen up, and watched it darken. She had 11 pages of an audit in her drawer, and a housekeeper's stare in the corridor, and a husband who had opened one eye at the wrong moment. She suddenly realized, everything she needed to know already. She just needed to see it with her own eyes. She looked at the clock on her desk. It was 12:04 in the afternoon. She was going to be home much earlier than 4. She pressed the intercom and asked Jenny to bring Adrienne's flight confirmation up the moment it landed in the inbox and to route no calls to the office for the next hour that were not tagged with the color red. Jenny said yes and did not ask what the color red meant, and Danielle liked her a little more for it. Then she opened the audit folder again. She turned past the transfers and the photograph and the KYC placeholder to the last page, which was a single sheet with a table of dates. The dates were the days on which the electronic key of the foundation chair had been used to authorize outbound transfers over the past 9 months. 6 dates. Danielle set a fingertip on the first one and slid it slowly down the column. October 14th, December 2nd, January 29th, March 18th, May 6th, 10 days ago. She reached into the shelf behind her desk and pulled down her personal planner. She flipped to October. October 14th was the day she had flown to Atlanta for her mother's cardiology follow-up. She had been away 4 days. December 2nd was the morning she had left for a foundation site visit in Ghana. January 29th was a girls' school opening in Busan that Sun Hee had insisted Danielle attend in person because the mayor was a family friend. March 18th was a New York board meeting. May 6th was 10 days ago, the funeral of Ji-hoon's uncle in Daegu, which the men of the family had attended alone because tradition, Sun Hee had explained, would find it improper for the American wife to sit at the graveside. 6 dates. 6 days that Sun Hee had known, in advance, that Danielle would not walk through the front door. She placed the planner beside the audit sheet. The 2 lines matched like teeth in a zipper. For a full 10 seconds she felt nothing at all. It was a specific nothing, a nurse's nothing, the pause between reading a monitor and moving the hand. Then a small heat began at the base of her throat and climbed to her ears and stopped there, and did not spread further, because she would not let it. She closed the planner. She closed the folder. She stood up. At the private washroom mirror she washed her hands and dried them on a linen towel and stood one more moment with her palms flat on the marble counter. She looked at herself. The rubbed morning shine of her cheeks, the clean line of her mouth, the gold at her ear. She looked, she thought, exactly like a woman who had no idea. Good. Back at her desk, she wrote a second entry in the black notebook. On the page opposite the 3 names, she wrote 6 dates in a neat column, and beside each date, in smaller script, the reason she had been away. Then she wrote at the bottom, in block letters, she knew the calendar. She capped the pen. She slid the notebook back into the zipped pocket. The phone on her desk vibrated once. A text from Jenny. Adrienne confirmed on the 10:40 flight tomorrow, arriving Incheon under the name Rachel Boone. Park was already routing through Hong Kong. Danielle typed back one word. Good. She sat down. She looked at the clock. It was 12:22. She thought of the coastal road and the way Mr. Chung always came back too early, and the way the emerald green of her dress had thrown a swimming shape onto the bedroom ceiling that morning. She thought of the pastries in a paper bag that were probably arriving at a side gate somewhere in the north of the city right now, though she could not know that yet, not in words. She reached for the intercom and pressed it and waited for Jenny to answer. Cancel my 2 o'clock. Tell Mr. Chung to bring the car up, and tell him we are going home the coastal way. Yes, ma'am. Is everything all right? Danielle looked at the door of her office. She looked past it, past the marble lobby, past the elevator shaft, all the way down the 38 floors and out along the road that would carry her back up the hill to the White House with the dark timbers. Everything is fine, Jenny. She let go of the button. She picked up her handbag. She walked to the door. Her hand was on the handle when the phone buzzed one more time, a message from a number that was not saved to her contacts. 6 words. She should not be in there. Danielle read the message twice. She did not answer it. She did not delete it. She slid the phone into her bag beside the notebook and the audit folder and the small silver thermos of broth she had never given back to Mrs. Im. She opened the door. Mr. Chung was already at the curb when Danielle stepped out of the tower. He opened the rear door without a word and closed it behind her, the way he closed things he understood would be reopened later. She set the audit folder on the seat beside her, the black notebook on top of it, the silver thermos between them like a small, careful animal. "Home," she said. "Take the tunnel. Traffic on the tunnel. Take it anyway." He met her eyes in the mirror, 1 full second, and pulled into the lane. She kept the phone in her lap, face down. The unknown number's message was still open under her thumb. She should not be in there. She read it once more and locked the screen. Whoever had sent it had chosen the present tense, which meant they were watching a door. She thought about which doors of that house had eyes. The tunnel swallowed the car. Orange lights washed across her hands, across the emerald folds of her dress, across the thin gold band on her ring finger. The band caught the light in a way she had never resented before. She did not touch it. She only saw it and let the seeing settle. "Faster than usual," she said, "but quiet at the gate. I don't want anyone told." "No one will be told. The intercom is off in the West Wing?" "Since 11. She looked at him again in the mirror. He had answered the second question before she'd asked how he knew. She let that stand. They came out of the tunnel into gray light. She opened the folder and moved her eyes down the columns Henry had left. 6 transfers, 6 of her absences. She read the beneficiary line at the top of the wire on the day she had been in Ghana, and the beneficiary line at the top of the wire from the week her mother was in the hospital in Atlanta. The same account, the same city, the same handler in Singapore. She closed the folder and rested her palm on it. "Mr. Chung." "Yes. If I ask you a question, will you answer it, or will you tell my mother-in-law I asked it?" "I will answer it. How long has this driver been mine?" 3 years and 4 months. "How long were you my mother-in-law's?" 9 days. She almost smiled. She did not. "You resigned from her house on your own. I asked to be reassigned. To me. To the wife." The car climbed the hill road toward the compound. The sea was on the left, flat and pewter. She looked at her own reflection in the window as it passed over pine and stone wall. The woman there was not the woman who had left the house that morning in a dress and a ring and a promise to be back by 4. That woman had been an idea. She was not sure yet who the woman in the glass was going to be by dinner, but she knew the idea was gone. "Pull to the service lane. The main gate is closer." The service lane. He turned. Gravel replaced asphalt. The compound wall rose on her right, ivy grown thick over the stone where it faced the road. On the left was the low white door the deliveries used, and beyond it, a path that came up behind the kitchen and cut through the garden to the west stair. She had walked it in slippers once when she couldn't sleep. She knew every foot of it. "Wait here. Don't shut the engine." "Ma'am." She stepped out. The air smelled of cut grass and something sweeter, cake maybe, from the kitchen vent. She did not look up at the house. She walked with the folder pressed to her side and the thermos in her right hand, past the herb boxes, past the little cracked stone lion Ji-hoon's father had brought back from Andong. The service door was unlocked. She had known it would be. Inside the back hall, the light was low and yellow. Mrs. Im was folding a napkin at the pantry table with the slow, private motions of a woman who was folding a napkin and doing something else at the same time. She looked up and her hand stopped. "You are early." "I know." Mrs. Im looked at the thermos. She looked at the folder. She looked at Danielle's face for the length of time it took a person to decide whether to lie. Then she stepped away from the table. "Second floor," she said. "West corridor. 3rd door. Who is in the small salon?" "She is." Ji-hoon's phone. Silenced. On the marble in the corridor. "Anyone else in the wing?" "No one. I sent the maids to the linen room and told them to count." Danielle set the thermos on the pantry table between them. She let her hand stay on the metal a beat longer than she needed to. "Thank you. I will be at the west stair." "No. Be at the small salon door. Don't let her out until I come down." Mrs. Im's chin lowered a fraction of an inch. Danielle had never given her an order like that. She took the order the way she had taken every plate of Danielle's untouched food back to the kitchen for 4 years, without a word and without a change of face. Danielle took the back stair. She counted the treads in her head. 19. On the 15th, she heard the sound, a laugh, a woman's laugh, small and close, from the far side of the wall. It was not the laugh of a woman who was afraid of being heard. It was the laugh of a woman who had been told the house was empty. She reached the top and stopped. The corridor was long and paneled in dark wood. Sun cut through the tall window at the end and lay in a bright rectangle on the floor. Halfway down the corridor, thrown across the console table under the mirror, was a coat she did not own. Black wool. A little sakola from a Cheongdam-dong bakery sitting beside it, the ribbon still tied. Under the console, one shoe, red sole, stiletto. The other one would be inside the room. She did not stop to look at herself in the mirror. She walked to the third door. Behind it, a voice. His, low. Something in Korean she did not want translated. Then the laugh again. Then a silence that was the wrong kind of silence. She turned the handle. The door was heavy, and it opened without noise. She had insisted on that hinge when they first moved in, because she hated the sound of doors that announced her. She had, in this small, stupid way, engineered her own arrival. The room was as she had left it that morning. The bed was not. The sheets were disturbed at the foot and pulled to the waist of the man who was in it. His back was to the door. The tattoo she had traced with one finger in Jeju sat there in the sun, the black scales of it a shape she had learned by heart. There was a woman beside him with her hair loose, hair long enough to reach her hips when she stood, hair she had seen in a photograph less than 3 hours earlier. Yuna saw her first. Danielle had expected surprise. She got a smile. The smile was not the one a woman gives when she is caught. It was the smile a woman gives when the door opens exactly at the moment she has been waiting for it to open. "Oh," Yuna said softly, in English, without covering herself. "You're early." Ji-hoon turned. She watched him go through it. She watched the animal come first, the widening of the eyes, the fast, small breath, and then the man who had been trained since he was 12 to make his face be a room with the lights off. He sat up. He held the sheet at his waist. He looked at her the way a person looks at a thing they have dropped. "Danielle." She did not answer. She stepped into the room. She stopped 4 paces from the bed because 4 paces was the distance from which she could see them both and still keep the door in the corner of her eye. "Danielle, please. Wait outside. Let me—" "No." The word was quiet. It sat on the floor between them like a stone she had put there. Yuna moved to lean back against the headboard. She did it the way an actress hits a mark. She was not embarrassed, and she did not intend to be. She reached to the nightstand and picked up a glass of water and drank from it, watching Danielle over the rim. "You should sit down," Yuna said. "I don't take chairs from strangers." "I'm not a stranger." "I know." She said it flat. She saw the flicker cross Yuna's face, the first honest thing on it since she had walked in, and she watched it be swallowed. Ji-hoon put a hand at the edge of the bed to stand. She lifted one finger. He stopped. "Stay there." "I need to explain. You need to sit on that bed and be quiet." He sat. She let the folder rest against her thigh. She was aware of the weight of the folder more than the weight of the air. The audit felt heavier than the room. She kept her hand on it. She was not sure her hand was steady enough to hold anything else. "2 questions," she said. "Then I go downstairs." She looked at Ji-hoon first. "This morning, the stomach, was that part of it?" He did not answer. "Kang Ji-hoon, look at me. Was the sickness this morning part of this?" He looked at the sheet. He looked at his hands. He looked, for one instant, at Yuna, and it was the last mistake he would make in front of her. "Yes." She nodded once. She had known it in the tunnel, and she had known it on the stair, and she had known it since her palm had come away dry from his forehead at 7 that morning, but she had wanted him to say it, because saying it was worth more later than knowing it now. She turned her face to Yuna. "Who chose the day?" Yuna set the glass down. She did it slowly. She let a small smile find the corner of her mouth. "Your mother-in-law," she said, 9 months ago. She chose the day, and the dress, and the bakery, and the shoes. She likes to know that a woman she is paying for is dressed the way she would dress her." A pause. She said the dragon on his neck deserved better company. Danielle did not move. She let the sentence land. She let it settle in the room like dust. How much? Enough, not from him, from her. The account in Singapore. Yuna's smile faltered for the length of a heartbeat and came back. You have been busy this morning. You have been busy for 9 months. She did not raise her voice, she did not need to. She lifted her left hand, she looked at the ring. She had not looked at it directly in a long time. It was a simple band, because she had asked for a simple band. She turned it once around her finger and slid it off. She walked 3 steps to the low black marble dresser by the wall. The dresser he had shipped in from a house in Busan the year they were married. She put the ring on the marble. She placed it carefully in the center of the polished surface, in the sun, where it could be seen from every point in the room. She did not close her fingers around it and let go slowly. She set it down like an object she was returning to a shop. She turned back. Ji-hoon was staring at the ring. His mouth was open. Danielle. I want to be clear, she said. I am not deciding right now. I decided in the tunnel. This is only the part where you find out. Please, let me. Yuna. Yuna lifted her eyes. 2 women looked at each other across the bed. How many rooms in this house have you been in? 6. Which is your favorite? Yuna tilted her head. She considered the question with the care of a woman being asked about a wine. The library. He reads to me in the library. Danielle set her jaw. The library was a room she had asked for. She had chosen the shelves. She had put a photograph of her mother on the middle shelf on the second wall. Is the photograph still there? On the second wall, she has a good face. Do not speak about my mother. Do not speak about my mother. Yuna closed her mouth. It was the first order in the room she had obeyed without a smile. Was the bakery bag a prop? Yes. Was the taxi a prop? Yes. Was he? Yuna's smile widened, and this time it was not for Danielle. It was for the man sitting between them. I don't know, she said. Ask her. Danielle almost laughed. She did not. She turned and walked to the door. At the door, she stopped and did not look back. Get dressed. Take the bag. Take the shoes. Take the coat off the console. Use the west stair. Mr. Chung will drive you off the property. I do not want to hear your voice in this hallway again. And if I stay... She turned her head then. Only her head. Just enough to show Yuna her profile in the sun. You won't. She opened the door. Behind her, Ji-hoon said her name a 3rd time, a sound that had nothing left in it, and she closed the door on it the way she had opened it, without noise. The corridor was empty. The coat was still on the console. The shoe was still under it. She did not look at any of it. She walked past the mirror and did not look at that either. She reached the top of the west stair and she felt her knees for the first time. She put her hand on the banister and let the wood take a second of her weight. She heard footsteps behind her, soft. Mrs. Im had come up after all. The older woman was standing at the head of the stair with an envelope in her hand. Manila. Thin, not sealed. She held it with both hands the way she held a tray she did not want to spill. For the wife, she said quietly. What is it? The garden cameras, the service gate, the last 9 months. Danielle did not open it. She took it and pressed it flat against the folder Henry had given her. 2 things that fit together. She looked at Mrs. Im, and Mrs. Im looked at the floor. How long have you had this? Since March? Why now? Because you came in the back door. Danielle closed her eyes for one full breath. When she opened them, she took Mrs. Im's hand for a single second. Neither of them spoke. There is a woman coming down that stair behind me in 8 minutes, she said. See her out. Do not touch her. Do not speak to her. Do not let her use the front. Yes, ma'am. When she is gone, come to my study. Yes, ma'am. And bring the thermos back. Mrs. Im's mouth moved. It was not quite a smile. It was the closest thing to one Danielle had ever seen on her. She went down. At the foot of the stair, the small salon was open. Sun-hee was inside, seated on the low cushion under the painting of the mountain, hands folded in her lap in the shape she used for guests. She had made herself, in the 8 minutes it had taken Danielle to climb and come back down, into a woman who had been sitting there patiently the entire time. The bracelet of imperial green jade was on her wrist. The tea in front of her had not been touched. You are home early, Sun-hee said in Korean, softly, without turning her head. I know. Is everything all right? Danielle stepped into the salon and closed the door behind her with the flat of one hand. She set the folder and the envelope on the low table opposite the tea. She did not sit down. Mother. Yes. You have been very generous with the foundation this year. Sun-hee raised her eyes then. Only her eyes. The rest of her did not move. The foundation is important to you. It is. Then I have been happy to help. I know how you have helped. The room went very still. A single sound came from far away. A door on the second floor, opening and closing again. And Sun-hee's chin lifted 1 degree at the sound. She had heard it too. She was placing it. She was calculating. Daughter. Do not call me that today. Sun-hee's hands unfolded and folded again, once in her lap. It was the only concession her body made. Her face stayed exactly where it had been. You have misunderstood something. I have understood everything. She tapped the folder once with 2 fingers. 6 wires. 6 of my trips. 1 account. 1 name. Your authorization key on every one. There is a woman upstairs putting on a red shoe. In 7 minutes she will walk out through the service gate. You paid for the shoe. Sun-hee closed her eyes for the length of a slow breath. When she opened them, she was smiling faintly. It was not a nice smile. You are upset. I am not upset. I am not upset. I am on the clock. What do you want, Danielle? I want you to sit here and drink your tea and not move until I come back. I am not a child. No, you are the chair of a charity you have been robbing. Sit here. She turned and opened the door. Mrs. Im was in the hall, exactly where she had been told to be, with her hands folded in front of her apron. Lock the salon. Yes, ma'am. From the outside. Yes, ma'am. Sun-hee did not stand. She did not call after her. Danielle heard the small metal sound of the salon key finding the salon lock, and she walked away from it without looking back. She crossed the main hall to the study. She closed the door. She locked it. She set the folder and the envelope side by side on the desk. She sat down for the first time since 7 that morning. She placed both hands flat on the wood and looked at them until her fingers stopped moving. Then she opened the envelope. The photographs were arranged by date. There were more than she had prepared herself to see. The oldest was from a night in March when she had been in Atlanta at her mother's bedside. A still of Yuna crossing the garden path in a white coat with the little bakery ribbon in her hand, and Ji-hoon standing at the terrace door in a robe. There was one from Ghana. There was one from the day her father-in-law had died and the family had been in Andong for the funeral. And Yuna had been in this house, in this hallway, at 3 in the afternoon. There was one from the week she had flown to Busan for the port contract. Yuna at the koi pond, at dusk, in a robe that belonged to the guest suite. There was one from a Tuesday in May. Danielle did not need to check her calendar for the Tuesday in May. She had been in New York meeting with the Ford Foundation about a matching grant for the entrepreneurship program. She remembered the meal she had eaten in the airport. She remembered thinking, in the cab back to the hotel, that her husband was probably asleep. The last one was from 10 days ago. She held that one longer than the others. Yuna was standing on the terrace in the emerald dress. Not one like Danielle's. The same one. The same folds of gold foliage. The same cut. Danielle looked at the seam at the shoulder where her own tailor made her mark, and it was there, in the photograph, on the other woman's body. Sun-hee had bought her a copy of the dress. Sun-hee had put the copy on the copy. Danielle turned each photograph over and laid it face down until the stack was face down again. She put her palm on it. She kept it there until the trembling in her wrist that she had not admitted was there had gone somewhere else. She picked up the desk phone. She dialed a number from memory. Adrienne. I'm on the plane. What? Bring Park. Land tonight, not tomorrow. I need you at the house by midnight. A pause on the other end. She heard Adrienne stand up from wherever she had been sitting. How bad? Bring the shareholder file, the one from the wedding week, and the 51. Adrienne exhaled. It was the sound of a lawyer who had waited 4 years to be called for this exact reason. On my way. Danielle hung up. She opened the black notebook. She turned to a fresh page. She wrote 3 lines in a hand that had steadied by the time it reached the 3rd. The audit goes tonight. The board meets tomorrow. He signs nothing after 5. She closed the notebook. She looked at the ring finger of her left hand and at the pale mark where the band had been and at the empty air where the band was not. She thought about the woman in the tunnel in the reflection, the one she had not yet named. She still did not name her. But she stood up from the desk, and when she stood, she was taller by an inch she had not been carrying that morning. She opened the study door. Mrs. M was waiting in the hall with the silver thermos in her hands. "He is coming down the stairs," she said. Danielle took the thermos. She unscrewed the lid. She poured the cooled broth into the potted fern by the door until the thermos was empty. She screwed the lid back on and handed it back. "Tell him I am in the study. Tell him to knock. If he opens the door without knocking, call security." "Yes, ma'am." "And Mrs. M." "Yes. Tomorrow morning I will need a new set of keys to this house. Only 2. One for you and one for me." Mrs. M held the empty thermos against her apron. Her mouth did the small thing that was not a smile again. "Yes, ma'am." Danielle stepped back into the study and closed the door. She sat in the chair behind the desk. She placed both hands on the wood. She waited. The clock on the wall read 3:41. She had promised to be home at 4. She was, by every measure that mattered, still on time. She reached for the black notebook again. She turned to the page with the 3 names she had written that morning. She struck a thin line through the middle name, not through the woman upstairs. Through the woman down the hall. The chair of the foundation was the one she would take first. The husband would be second, because the husband was the smaller problem, and because the smaller problem is what you keep for last, when you have already broken the larger one, and the smaller one has watched you do it. She closed the notebook. She listened. Upstairs, a door opened. Down the corridor, a shoe. Down the stair, another. Then bare feet, fast, on the runner. Then a hand on the study door, and no knock at all. The trinket turned, slow, 1 full millimeter, and stopped. Danielle watched it from behind the desk. She had counted the seconds between Yuna's step on the west stair and this. 22. 22 seconds for a man to descend, cross the corridor, and refuse the small mercy of a knock. She let the silence answer. "Danielle, open." She pressed the intercom for the front hall. Mrs. M's answer was there before the button had traveled its full click. "Ma'am." "Send Park Do-yun. Post him at this door. If Mr. Kang lifts his voice, remove him to the east wing." "Yes, ma'am." The lock in the small salon door 3 rooms away would still be turned. Danielle had put the key in her jacket pocket. She could feel it now against her hip, cold, tooth up. "Danielle." He had lowered his voice. That was the register he used at contract dinners, at funerals. "You are making this bigger than it is." The chair under her did not creak because she had not moved. She looked at the folder in front of her, and then at the manila envelope beside it, and then, only then, she stood. She did not go to the door. She went to the safe behind the andong screen. The safe was 17 years old, and it had 2 combinations. She used the second. The one Ji-hoon did not know. Inside were 3 files in green cloth. She took the middle one, her father's handwriting on the tab. Harper Kang, week of wedding. She placed it on top of the manila envelope on top of the yellow folder. 3 colors, 1 stack. She sat back down. "Danielle." She lifted the phone. 2 numbers. First to Adrienne. Voicemail. Because Adrienne was in the air. She left 5 words. "Bring the file. 6 hours. Second to Henry." He picked up on the first ring. 29 has Hajina? On the 29th as of 40 minutes ago. Move the reading room. Basement level of the tower, not our floors. Set it for 11 tonight. Board? All 7. Yoon included. Say it is a signing. She paused. Do not say for what. She hung up. Through the door came a sound that was neither speech nor knock, something between a fist and a palm, the flat of a hand testing whether the wood was hollow. She spoke through it, quiet. "Ji-hoon, sit down in the corridor. There is a bench by the tea cabinet. Sit. Open the door. Sit." A beat. Then the small give of weight against wood, on the other side, and the drag of a body sliding down until it rested. He had sat. He had done what she said. That fact would be useful later. She opened her notebook to the page from the tunnel. She struck a second name, Kang Ji-hoon, drawn through by the same black line she had used on his mother. She wrote a new row below it. Yuna, criminal complaint, this week. Under Yuna, she wrote a single word she had not written since law school. Depose. She closed the notebook. The intercom lit. "Mrs. M." Ma'am, Miss Seo is at the service gate. Mr. Chung is asking if he should release her. Not yet. She rested a fingertip on the button. Put her in the back seat. Windows up. Do not let her make a call. Her purse. Take the phone. Return the purse. Yes, ma'am. She released the button. Behind her, faintly, the fern's damp leaves sagged and then lifted, writing, Ji-hoon, I am here. His voice small through the wood, not small in the way she had wanted, small in the way of a boy who had once been a boy and had not been for a very long time. You will not sleep in this house tonight. Danielle, you will sleep at the Grand Hyatt. The company keeps a room. I have told the front desk your name. Please. Do not use please with me tonight. Silence. Through the wood, she heard him take breath in the way that meant he was going to try something new. He tried it. I will tell the board myself. You will tell the board nothing. They will listen to me. They will listen to me at 11. The pause that followed was long enough that she counted the beats of the marble clock on the mantel. She had bought that clock in Andong the same week she had bought the black desk. She had thought of it as a sound she could count on. Danielle, his voice again, adjusted, higher. He had thought of another card. The Busan contract. Signing is Monday. If I am not at that table, Adrian will be at that table. They will not sign with her. They will sign with 51. He did not answer. He had heard the number and understood the number, and understanding it was, for him, a slower process than hearing it. She waited. What did you say? You heard me. Danielle, not a plea now. Not yet. What are you saying? I am saying 11 o'clock. I am saying the basement reading room. I am saying you will come. You will not speak until the third document, and you will sign what I put in front of you. Or the police will read the fund's wire log before breakfast. He did not answer for a full breath. Then, so soft the wood almost swallowed it, the fund. Your mother's kindness, she said, was 6 wires long. She did not wait for him to arrange his mouth around the next thing. She lifted the phone once more, and this time she pressed the button that went straight to the driveway. Mr. Chung, take Miss Seo to the Yongsan police station's south entrance and wait in the car. Do not walk her in. Do not speak to her. If she asks a question, do not answer. I will meet you there. Chung acknowledged. She hung up. She went to the door. She unlocked it. Ji-hoon was on his knees, not because he had chosen the posture, but because the bench was low, and he had folded to sit, and had not made it back up. The dragon on the right side of his throat moved under his skin as he swallowed. His feet were bare. He had come down from the bedroom without shoes. She looked at his feet and did not soften. Get up. He got up. He was taller than she was. Always had been. She used it against him now, the way she stood so that he had to look down and be, for once, on the descending side of the line. You will not speak to me tonight. You will not speak to your mother. You will not go into the small salon. You will pack one bag. Mrs. Im will bring the car around to the front. You will go to the Hyatt, and you will wait for 11. Yes. Say it fully. I will wait for 11. You will bring nothing to that room. No lawyer of your own. No phone recorder. No proxy. Yes. She turned back to the desk and picked up the green file, the manila envelope, and the yellow folder, and she walked past him without touching his sleeve. He was quiet enough that his breath was a separate sound in the corridor. Mrs. Im was at the foot of the stairs with a coat on her arm, Danielle's, and the new house keys she had asked for on a small silver tray. Only 2, as ordered. Danielle took one, and Mrs. Im slid the other into her own apron pocket. Miss Seo? In the car. The salon? Give it 40 more minutes. Then bring her tea and unlock the door and leave the tray on the low table. Do not sit. Yes, ma'am. When she asks for her son, tell her he is at the Hyatt. Mrs. Im's mouth did the small thing at the corner that Danielle had come to read as approval. At the front door, Danielle paused. She looked back once toward the west stair. She did not go up. The ring on the black marble dresser could stay on the black marble dresser. She had chosen a room in a tower for tonight. The car took her along the coastal road. She read the green file under the small reading lamp. Her father had assembled it in the week of the wedding, without her knowing. 4 years he had lived after that. Long enough to teach her the second combination to the safe. The file listed her holdings in straight columns. Kang Harper Holdings, Class A, 51%. Kang Shipping, Busan, 51%. Foundation, Chair Designate, 6 subsidiary entities at 51% each, held through a Delaware LLC whose sole trustee was, since her father's death, herself. She had signed those papers the morning of the wedding, in a small office downtown, with her father and Adrian's father-in-law as witnesses. Ji-hoon had signed his half at 11. He had not read past the 3rd page. The car pulled off at the tower, and she rode the elevator down, not up. Basement 2. Henry was already there. Ha Jinna stood behind him with a laptop she was holding like a bird. "Ma'am? Jinna?" The junior nodded. She did not offer her hand. That too was correct. The reading room was small. 12 seats, 1 glass wall onto a corridor that could be blinded with a switch. Henry blinded it. "Board is confirmed for 11, he said. Yoon called back personally. He would like a word before. "He can have it." She sat at the head of the table. She placed the 3 files in front of her. Green, manila, yellow. She placed the black notebook to her right. She placed the small silver key of the house at her left. She placed the phone face down. Ha Jinna set the laptop before her, opened it, turned it around. 6 wires, 6 dates, 6 signatures. 6 matched calendar entries in Danielle's file that Ha Jinna had cross-referenced in the 90 minutes since being moved to the 29th floor. "You did this in an hour and a half." "Yes, ma'am. You will do more." The junior did not smile. Danielle liked that. She turned to Henry. "KYC in Singapore?" Bank confirmed the beneficiary by voice, not by document. The voice was female. Recorded call, retained. "Play it." Henry played it. Seo Yuna's voice, in careful English, giving a passport number that matched her national ID by 3 digits and missed by 6. Someone at the bank had accepted it. That someone had a name and an office and, Danielle noted, a wife who worked in the compliance arm of Kang Shipping's Busan office. The bank officer's wife. Yes. Add her. Added. Signature on the wires. Chair's electronic key. Time-stamped. All 6 times the token was pressed from an IP inside the house. Whose room? Chair's study. Whose finger? Henry hesitated the smallest fraction. Camera in the anteroom shows only the chair entering and leaving, no one else. Good. The junior lifted the laptop and turned it around a second time, this time to show a folder. "Ma'am, I did not know if there is a 7th. A 7th what? Wire. 2 hours ago." The room held its breath through the space of 1 blink. 2 hours ago, Danielle had been on the coastal road. 2 hours ago, the door of the west bedroom had not yet been opened. Amount, $500,000 US. Payee, same Singapore account. Signature, chair's key. From the small salon, Danielle allowed her eyes to close, once, briefly. When she opened them, she was smiling. It was not a smile a person would ask about. "She signed it while I was in the tunnel. Ma'am, that is her mistake." She turned to Henry. "Print the 7. Notarize the 7. Send the 7 to the police liaison at 10:50. Not sooner, not later. I do not want a call at the front desk before I am in the room. Ma'am." She reached for the phone. She dialed Adrian once more. On the ground now, in the car, coming in from Incheon with Park. "Adrian. 22 minutes. Bring Park through the loading dock. I do not want the lobby cameras until midnight." "Understood." The share file. "On me." The 51. "On me." Yoon wants a word. He should have it. He is the only one of them who was in the room in 1988. That is why I am giving it to him. Adrian on the line made the sound that was not quite a laugh. "Are you going to be all right?" "I am going to be exact. That was not what I asked." Danielle looked at the small silver key on the table. She thought of her mother's photograph on the second shelf of the library, which she had not yet retrieved, which she would retrieve tomorrow, which she would move into her office on the 38th floor by lunch. "I will be all right on Sunday." "Sunday works," Adrian said, and hung up. Yoon arrived at 10:40. His back had never accepted his age. He wore the gray suit he had worn to Danielle's rehearsal dinner 4 years ago. She rose. He waved her back down. "Sit." "I will sit." He sat. He looked at the 3 files. He did not open them. Tell me the shape of it. 7 wires, 9 months, 3.1 million US, or 900 more if the 7th clears by morning. The chair signed. The chair's payee is a woman found this afternoon in the west bedroom of my house. My husband knew about the doctor before he took the pill. My mother-in-law selected the woman 9 months ago in the presence of one of the household staff who has since died. Camera log confirms 6 visits. I have those photographs. Yoon's eyes closed for the count of 2. And your ownership. 51. You had that since the morning of the wedding. He did not read it. He did not read it. And you did not tell. My father did not want me to tell. Yoon opened his eyes. He looked at her for a long time. When he spoke, he used the honorific she had been given on the day she married in, the one he had never used until now. Daughter. She waited. I will not vote against you tonight. You are the only one whose vote I need. You have it. He stood, slowly. He touched the top of the green file with 2 fingers. The way an old man in Andong touches a stone in a garden, he did not build, but has been asked, at the end of his life, to tend. Then he turned and walked out. Danielle looked at Henry. The others? They are afraid of him. Where he goes, they go. Good. 10:55. Ji-hoon walked into the reading room in the coat he had left the house in. He had shoes on now. His hair was still wet at the temple. His eyes went first to the 3 files, then to the small silver key on the table, then, only then, to her. She watched him find the key and understand that it was the house key and that it was not on a ring with anything else. He sat where she pointed. He put his hands on the table where she could see them. He did not speak until she spoke. The other 6 directors came in a cluster behind Adrian, who walked at their front with the shareholder file under her arm, as if it were a wafer. Park entered last, closed the door, and blinded the glass wall a second time from the inside. Gentlemen, Adrian's voice, quiet. English first, then the Korean, the room preferred at signings. We are here to sign 3 documents. She did not say 4. Danielle noted it. Adrian was leaving the 4th in reserve. The first document went around. It was a restructuring notice, effective immediately, transferring operational authority for the holding company from the current chief executive to the chair of shareholders' interest. Danielle. Signature lines below. Yoon signed first. That was the whole vote. The others watched his pen and then signed in the order they were seated. Ji-hoon did not lift his pen for the first document. Adrian slid it in front of him. He looked at Danielle. Sign. He signed. The second document went around. It was the freeze of every account in Kang Sun-hee's name, personal and fiduciary, including her authorities as chair of the Kang Harper Foundation. Signature lines below. Yoon signed first. The others followed. Ji-hoon looked at Danielle again. She did not need to say the word this time. He signed. The third document went around. It was Ji-hoon's own resignation as chief executive of Kang Harper Holdings, effective at midnight. The pen paused above the line. Danielle? Sign. I can help you tomorrow. I can be at the Busan table for you. I can. Sign. I did not know she was going to. She lifted her eyes from the paper. She held his without moving. You knew what she paid the doctor. The room did not exhale. He signed. Adrian collected the 3 sets of pages. She placed them in front of Danielle. Danielle countersigned each. Henry witnessed. Ha-jin-ah, at Danielle's small nod, witnessed as second. Adrian did not lay out the 4th document. She kept it in the file under her arm. That is the shape of tonight, Danielle said, still in Korean, still low, and it is enough for now. Yoon stood. The rest stood with him. He crossed to Danielle and put a hand, briefly, on the back of the chair she was in, not on her shoulder, not on her arm, only on the chair, and then he left. The others followed him without speaking to Ji-hoon at the door. Adrian stayed. Park stayed. Henry stayed. Ha-jin-ah stayed. Ji-hoon sat in his chair with the pen still in his hand, as if he had not yet been given permission to put it down. Danielle turned to him. Give the pen back. He gave the pen back. Go to the Hyatt. Danielle, go to the Hyatt. Tomorrow morning a car will bring you to my office. I will tell you then which of the 2 things I do with you next. Which 2? She looked at him a long moment. She wanted him to have the words, because he would need them tonight, and she had never been the kind of woman who kept a man from what he needed at night. Whether I let you keep your name. His mouth worked. Nothing came out. Park, at the door, opened it and stood aside, and after a second, Ji-hoon walked past him and out into the corridor without looking back. The door clicked. Adrian set the file on the table and finally lifted the fourth document from it. It was the criminal complaint, Seo Yuna's name, Kang Sun-hee's name, the chair's electronic signature key, 6 dated wires and a 7th whose ink was, in a sense, still wet. "Where do you want to file this?" Adrian said. "Yongsan South entrance, 10 minutes. You want to walk her in yourself." "I want her to see who is walking her in." Adrian nodded once. She turned to Park, who was already lifting his coat. Henry cleared his throat. "Ma'am, one more thing." She waited. "The 7th wire. It has not cleared. The bank is still holding it. If we file before it clears, it may reverse before booking. Let it clear. Ma'am, let it clear. I want it in the record." "Yes, ma'am." She stood. She picked up the small silver key from the table and put it in her jacket pocket, alongside the key to the small salon that was still there from the afternoon. 2 keys, 2 locks, 2 women waiting to be shown the inside of a room they did not yet know they were in. At the elevator, Adrian walked beside her. Neither of them spoke until the doors closed. "You did not tell him about the fund," Adrian said. "I told him she paid the doctor. You did not say for what." "He knows for what." The elevator rose. The building was empty above the 5th floor at this hour, and the numbers climbed without stopping. When they crossed the 29th, Danielle thought of Ha Jin-ah, still down there, still with the laptop, still writing, and she said, without looking at Adrian, "Move Jin-ah to the 38th on Monday. Give her an office with a window." Done. The car took them east. Yongsan's south entrance was quiet at this hour. 1 officer at the desk, a second in the corridor, both of them expecting her, because Adrian had called ahead from the loading dock. Mr. Chung was in the driver's seat of the second car, engine idling, Yuna in the back with her hands in her lap and her phone gone. She saw Danielle through the windshield and her mouth moved, once, before she caught it. Danielle opened the door herself. Out. Yuna got out. She stood on the wet asphalt in the stiletto and the black wool coat. Her hair was loose down her back. The Cartier was still on her wrist. She had not been given time to think about which items she would have preferred to leave in the west bedroom. "Walk?" Danielle said. Yuna walked. 2 officers came down the steps to meet them. Adrian handed the file to the first. The second held the door. At the threshold, Yuna stopped, half-turned. "He loved me." Danielle looked at her. She did not answer. She did not need to. The officer's hand went to Yuna's elbow, gentle, correct, and Yuna went in. Danielle stood on the wet asphalt a moment longer. The rain was beginning again, a small fine one, the kind that would not soak but would make everything reflect. She watched the door close. Her phone lit in her pocket. She lifted it. "Mrs. Im." "Ma'am. The chair has been in the salon 4 hours." "Yes." "Would you like her moved?" "To where?" "There is a car." Danielle looked at the closed door of the police station and, in her mind, at the closed door of the small salon under the mountain painting, and at the closed door of the Hyatt suite, where Ji-hoon was, by now, taking off his coat. "Not tonight." "Ma'am." "Feed her. Let her sleep in her own bed. Post 2 men in the corridor. In the morning I will come." "Yes, ma'am." "Mrs. Im." "Ma'am." "Thank you." There was a pause on the line, the sound of an older woman deciding what to allow herself. "It has been a long day for you, ma'am." "It has been the right day." Danielle hung up. She turned. Adrian was waiting at the car with the door open. Park was on his phone, already scheduling Sunday. The rain began to feel like something she could count. She got in the car. Adrian slid in beside her. The car pulled away from the south entrance and into the sparse east side traffic, headed back toward the tower. Adrian opened a folder on her lap. Inside were 3 pages, stapled, unsigned. The top page said, in Korean and in English, divorce, grounds, adultery, fraud, conspiracy, in theft of charitable assets. "When?" Adrian said. "After the criminal filing takes." 24 hours. Then, Adrian closed the folder. They rode the rest of the way in silence. At the tower, Danielle did not go up to the executive floor. She went to the 38th, her office. She sat behind her own desk for the first time since the morning. She did not turn on the overhead light. The city outside made enough of a light. On the desk, Jenny had left 3 neat stacks. The middle one had a note in Jenny's careful hand. Dr. Harper, from Miss Evans, at Spellman, hand-delivered. Danielle opened it. It was a thank you card, hand-lettered, from the girl she had written to at lunch. Inside, a photograph of the girl at the door of a laboratory, in a white coat, too new for her shoulders, smiling the smile of a young woman who does not yet know how much she is going to lose. Danielle held the card. She read it twice. She put it in the top drawer. She reached for the phone. She dialed the foundation. "This is Dr. Harper. I need the Monday agenda pulled forward to tomorrow morning. 8 sharp, Board of Trustees. All of them." She hung up. She sat a moment longer, watching the wet lights of Gangnam slide against the glass. Then she lifted the phone one more time and dialed the number she had not dialed all day. The Hyatt, front desk. "Suite 4102, do not put through calls." "Yes, Dr. Harper." "If Mr. Kang tries to leave the room before 7, wake me." "Yes, Dr. Harper." She hung up. She turned in the chair. She looked at the city. She sat that way, alone, without moving, until the rain outside became rain she could no longer hear. At 3 in the morning her phone lit, a number she did not know. She looked at it a long moment, hand hovering, and then she answered. Silence. Breath. A woman's breath. Not Sunhee's, not Yuna's. "Who is this?" "Ma'am." A voice she had heard once, in an office on the 29th floor, saying, "Yes, ma'am. It is Jinnah. I found something else." "Tell me." "There is an 8th. Danielle closed her eyes. "When?" "Tonight. 30 minutes ago." "Signed from where?" "The house." Danielle opened her eyes. "Which room?" The junior's voice hesitated. When it came, it was smaller. "The small salon." Danielle sat forward. She looked, through the window, in the direction of the coastal road, and the house at the end of it, and the mountain painting inside it, and the woman under the painting who had, at some point in the last 30 minutes, lifted a bracelet of imperial jade from her wrist to press a key she was not supposed to still be able to press. "Jinnah." "Ma'am. Do not sleep. I am coming back down." She stood. She lifted her coat. She was already at the elevator when the phone lit a second time, and this time it was Mrs. Im, and this time her voice was not calm. "Ma'am, the chair is not in the salon." Danielle heard the sentence twice before she moved, once from Mrs. Im through the phone, once inside her own head, translating it into what it meant. Not in the salon. She pressed the elevator button and did not press it again. Pressing a button twice was for people who thought speed came from wanting. "Which door?" she said. "East service. The one to the kitchen garden." Who saw her leave? No one saw. The corridor camera lost her at 3:17. Lost her how? The feed shows her at the salon threshold, and then shows the wall. Danielle stepped into the elevator. "Cut a mark," she said. 3:17. Save the file. "Ma'am, there is more." "Say it." "Her bracelet is on the tea table." The elevator descended 8 floors before Danielle registered that Mrs. Im had said bracelet and not tray, not chair, not phone. Jade, imperial green, the one she wore the day she chose Yuna, the one she wore under the mountain painting for 4 hours while Danielle drove home to find her husband in bed. Taking it off was a message. It was also a mistake, because a woman who leaves her signature stone behind is a woman who has already decided she will not need her old face again. "Send it to me," Danielle said. "The photo, now." The elevator opened onto the lobby. 2 of Park Do-yeon's men were at the doors, hands folded low. They had not moved since 11 the night before. She walked past them without slowing and got into the car Mr. Chung had already brought around. The rain had stopped. The pavement showed the last of it in thin lines by the curb. "Yongsan," she said, "then the house." "Yongsan first?" "Yongsan first." Chung pulled out. Danielle opened the phone. The bracelet sat in the center of the tea table in the photo, coiled like a green vein around nothing. No note, no cup, no cha. The tea had been drunk. She wrote 3 words on a fresh page in the black notebook. She wrote them with the same pen she had used to strike Sun-hee's name at the top of the list 11 hours earlier. She keeps signing. Wire 8 had been signed at 2:31 from a study that was 3 floors above a locked salon. The wire had cleared a routing check at 2:47. Ha-jin-ah caught it at 2:52 because Ha-jin-ah had set a listener on the token before going to sleep on the audit room couch. The listener did not sleep. It pinged Ha-jin-ah's laptop, and her laptop pinged the printer, and the printer began to print before she reached it. None of that was in the photo of the bracelet, but Danielle carried all of it in the seat behind her eyes as Chung took the ramp down to the tunnel. She dialed Henry. Where is the 8th going? Zurich correspondent, then Singapore, then a shell in Vanuatu. To whom? Not Yuna. New beneficiary. Registered 10 days ago. Kang Family Cultural Heritage Foundation. Kang Family what? Cultural Heritage. Registered by her personally in Ndong. The address is the ancestral house. The tunnel took the phone for 4 seconds. When it came back, Henry was still talking. Siphon route. She is not paying Yuna anymore. She has built herself a landing pad. How much can she move before we shut the token? We shut the token at 3:11. Everything after is illegal. The 8th cleared the first 2 banks before we killed it. It has not touched Vanuatu. How much? 900,000 USD. Danielle set the phone against the window. 900 was not for a landing pad. 900 was for a plane and a lawyer and a country that did not extradite. Freeze the correspondent, she said. Ask the Singapore officer's wife where she was tonight. Doing it. And Henry. Yes. Tell the police liaison the 8th is now an active flight risk. Not just a wire crime. A person crime. She hung up. Chung took the exit for the coastal road, and the sky in front of them began to gray at the seam. How long? She said. 40 minutes at this hour. Make it 30. The car found its higher gear. Danielle called Adrian. She is running, Danielle said. Adrian's voice was already awake. I am at the house. I got here at 3:30. Where is the security team? 2 at the east service door, 2 at the front, 1 in the kitchen. Mrs. Im has the second key. She has not opened the salon since the discovery. The salon is still locked. Yes. Then how did she get out? Adrian breathed once. There is a panel behind the mountain painting. Mrs. Im showed me at 4. Danielle set her hand flat on the leather beside her thigh. She kept it there. She did not close it. Since when? Mrs. Im says since your husband's grandfather. It runs from the salon to a stair inside the west wing. The stair comes out at the pantry. The pantry has a service exit. And the camera at the salon threshold sees the doorway, not the wall behind the painting. Whoever installed the panel installed it to sit outside the frame. Danielle heard herself laugh once, dry, and stopped. Adrienne, she has a plane. I know. Where? Gimhae, or Andong airstrip, or a boat out of Ulsan. I have people at all 3. Since when? Since I landed. Danielle closed her eyes for 1 second and opened them. Adrian had chartered a jet, brought Park through Hong Kong, unpacked a green file her father had witnessed, and in the hours between landing and this call had also decided, without being told, that Sun-hee would try to leave the country. Adrian. Yes. You get half of my next 3 years. I'll take the year I already earned tonight. Danielle hung up. Chung was doing 140 on the coastal road. She dialed the house. Mrs. Im. Ma'am. The panel. I did not know when to say it. You said it at 4. That was when to say it. Yes, ma'am. Is the pantry door open? It was open when I found it. I closed it and put a chair against it. Good. Do not open it until we come. Where is her phone? She left it in the salon, under the cushion of the second chair. Under the cushion. Yes. That was for me. I believe so. Danielle thought about the cushion for a mile. Sun-hee had left the phone the way a woman leaves a note that says, I am not the one calling anyone now. It was theater. It was also a confession, though she had not meant it as one, because leaving a phone meant she had another phone, and having another phone meant she had planned to have one for a long time. Which chair? Danielle said. The chair under the mountain painting. The chair she sat in yesterday. The chair she sat in for 4 years. Danielle nodded to the window. Tell Park Do-yun's men to hold the pantry, not to enter. 2 on the outside, 1 at the mouth of the stair. If she comes back, they hold. They do not touch. They do not touch. They call me. Yes. And Mrs. Im. Ma'am, you have done everything I would have asked, and one thing I did not know to ask. Thank you. There was a small breath on the line, the kind a person makes when a thing they carried for years finally slides off their shoulder. It is my house too, Mrs. Im said. Danielle did not answer. She put the phone on the seat and watched the road. At the police south entrance, the chuva of the night before had left a black shine on the ramp. Chung stopped without asking, and Danielle stepped out with the green file in one hand and the black notebook in the other. Adrian had told the liaison she was coming. The liaison was already at the door. He was a man Danielle had met once at a foundation dinner. He was smaller than she remembered. Chairman Harper. Detective. We have Miss Seo secured. She has asked for a lawyer twice. The second time she asked for one of yours. She will not get one of mine. He smiled. Not warmly. Correctly. The complaint against Madame Kang. I am filing it now. In person. Please. They walked through the corridor. She did not look at the doors. She had come to sign one thing and leave. Adrian had written the criminal complaint on the plane. Danielle had approved the language in the tower reading room. All that was missing was a signature and a hand across a counter. She gave both. Warrant, she said. By 6, he said. The prosecutor is on the way in. She is trying to leave the country. He looked at her over the glasses. Which route? Gimhae, Andong Airstrip, Ulsan Port. He turned to the man behind him and said 7 words in Korean that meant, in effect, all 3, all now, this hour. The man went. Danielle did not translate. She had heard the 7 words before, once, when a shipment of fake compressors had tried to leave through Busan 3 years ago and had not. The liaison walked her back to the door. Miss Seo, he said. Yes. She told the intake officer she has a recording. Danielle stopped. A recording of what? She would not say. She said she would only say it to you. The corridor lights buzzed a little. A door somewhere opened and shut. Detective. Yes. I will not see her. I did not ask you to. But I want the phone she came in with, and every device she has touched in the last 12 months. Warrant that too. Yes. She walked back to the car. Chung had turned it around. He opened her door. She got in and closed her eyes for exactly 3 seconds, because Adrian had told her once, in Los Angeles, that 3 seconds is what a court reporter counts as a pause. She had learned to count them. The house, she said. Yes, ma'am. The sky above the coastal road turned the color of an old coin. She thought about the recording and knew, without letting herself write it in the notebook yet, that it did not matter what Yuna had recorded. It only mattered that she had. Someone who records is someone who was told to record. Someone who was told to record was told by someone who wanted to keep the recording as an heirloom. She wrote one word, insurance. She underlined it. The house came up on the right and the gate opened before Chung reached it. 2 of Park Do-yun's men stood inside the pillar. She got out without waiting. The house was awake in a way she had never seen it awake. Every hall light was on. The kitchen door was open. Mrs. Im stood at the foot of the main stair with a tray in her hand that had nothing on it. The tray was habit. Danielle understood in that moment that Mrs. Im had been carrying trays with nothing on them for 4 years so that Sun Hee would think she was still a servant. She took the tray gently from Mrs. Im and set it on the console. Adrian. Study. The pantry. Closed. The chair is still against it. Danielle went to the salon first. The mountain painting hung crooked half a finger to the left. The bracelet lay on the tea table, where she had seen it in the photo. She lifted it once, felt its weight, and put it back exactly where it had been. She did not pocket it. She wanted Sun Hee to find it again in the same place, one day, in a photograph the prosecutor would show her. She walked to the panel. Adrian came in behind her. Do you want to see it? No? You should. I will, not now. They went to the study. Adrian had spread 3 folders across the desk. The green file, the manila envelope, a new yellow folder that had not been there the night before. What is the yellow one? 6 months of chair token access. Hajina pulled it. She used the token 71 times. 14 were from the small salon after 10 p.m. 14. 14. Danielle sat down. Adrian did not. There is one more thing. Say it. The foundation account, the main one. The account the 6 wires drew from. Yes. It has a sub-account she opened 2 years ago. A scholarship line for daughters of Kang employees. 200,000 a year seeded from the main. She has not paid a single scholarship. The money is in the sub-account. How much? 400,000 USD. Danielle set the pen down. She looked at Adrian. Adrian looked at her, then at the folder, then at her again. Move it back to the main line by Monday, Danielle said. And then move the main line's ceiling from 3 million a year to 9. Adrian did not smile because she was not the kind of lawyer who smiled at things like that. She wrote it down. Also, Danielle said, pull the list of every young woman who ever applied to that fake scholarship. I want each one contacted this month. I want the ones with the strongest applications offered the real one at 3 times the value, in their name, in their state, on our letterhead. Yes. And the ones whose applications she declined without a reason. Same. Same. Adrian wrote for another 20 seconds. When she looked up, she said, you know she will use the recording. I know. You know what will be on it. I know what the shape of it will be. Say the shape. She will have her voice in it saying she loved him, and her voice in it saying, I never did, and a piece of Ji-hoon that she can cut so it sounds like he chose her, and a piece of my voice from a phone she planted somewhere that sounds like I threatened her. Yes, and she will offer to sell it to the highest bidder, which is now us. Yes. Danielle stood up and walked to the window. The kitchen garden below was still dark, but at the far corner where the pantry stair opened, she saw the shape of a man not moving. Park Do-yoon's man. Correct posture. Doing what he was told. Adrienne. Yes. We do not buy the recording. Good. We publish first. Adrian turned. Publish what first? Everything else. The wires, the panel, the token log, the fake scholarship account, the KYC officer whose wife works at the port, the camera photos of Yuna in the Vestido Esmeralda, every fact we already own, every fact that does not need her to confirm it. We publish it before she offers her recording to anyone. Which paper? Not a paper. A wire service, Reuters, Yonhap, AP, simultaneous. 6 a.m. That is 90 minutes. That is 90 minutes. Adrian wrote it down. Then she wrote it down again on a different page, because that was how she made sure a decision had been made twice. Hajina's number lit the phone. Yes. Ma'am. The 8th was signed with the token, but it was signed from a phone. A phone. A phone paired to the token 6 weeks ago. The pairing came from the small salon on a Thursday, when we know the chair was in Andong. So someone in the salon paired her token to a device she is now carrying. Yes, the device is not in the house. No, ma'am, the device is moving. Danielle set both palms flat on the desk. Moving where? South on the coastal road, it has been moving since 3:21. How is it moving? By car. 20 kilometers so far. It stopped once at a rest stop for 4 minutes. Now it is moving again. How do you know it is her? I do not. But the token is on the device, and the device is not in this house, and the person who has it is going toward the sea. South of us or south of the port? South of us. Ulsan direction. Danielle looked at Adrian. Adrian was already dialing. Detective, Adrian said into the phone. Coastal Road South. Tollgate 3. Now. Danielle held the desk edge. The wood was cool. She thought about a small woman in a hanbok, with a jade coil left in a salon, and a paired phone under her sleeve, driving toward a coast where a boat could be waiting. She thought about the 7 words in Korean the liaison had said in the corridor an hour ago. She thought about the recording. She thought about the fake scholarship line, and about the daughters whose names had been written on applications and thrown in a drawer. She thought, briefly, about her mother in Atlanta, who had spent a lifetime with 2 extra jobs so that Danielle could go to a school where a girl learned that ownership was not the same as permission. She thought about the pen with which her father had signed a green file on a morning 4 years ago. She thought about the dragon on her husband's neck, and the sentence he had said to her on a beach in Jeju that first year. That winter and patience were the same thing. She stopped thinking. Adrienne. Yes. I want to go to the coast. Danielle. I know. Do not. I know. I am not going. Adrienne nodded once. It was the second time Danielle had seen her nod like that in 9 years. But, Danielle said, call the prosecutor. Now, not by 6, now. Adrienne dialed. At 4:24, the phone from Ha Jin-ah rang again. Ma'am. Yes. The device stopped at toll gate 3. 2 units met it. The device is with the units. The person is with the units also. And she is asking for a phone call to her son. Danielle held very still. To her son. Yes. Ha Jin-ah. Yes. Tell them she does not get the call. Yes. And Ha Jin-ah. Yes. Wake up, go home, sleep 6 hours, come back at noon. You will be moved to the 38th on Monday. The office with the window. You choose the wall. There was one beat of silence. Thank you, ma'am. She hung up. Adrienne was still on the phone with the prosecutor. Danielle walked to the window again and watched the kitchen garden go from gray to almost blue. The corner where the pantry stair opened had 2 men at it now instead of 1. Park Do-yoon had sent a second because Park Do-yoon understood that a house without its old chair was still, for an hour or two, a house that was not sure who to obey. Mrs. Im came into the study without knocking. She carried a small wooden box. It was old. The lid had a corner missing. It was the kind of box Danielle had seen once, in Sun Hee's dressing room, being placed back in a drawer. Ma'am. Yes. This was in the drawer of her writing desk. The one in the small salon. You went into her salon, after she left. To look for what? For what she left. Danielle opened the box. Inside were 3 items. A brown envelope, small, a cassette tape, unlabeled, and a photograph she had never seen, a young Sun Hee, maybe 30, standing on a dock, with a man Danielle did not recognize, and a child who was not yet Ji-hoon. She lifted the tape, she lifted the envelope, she did not touch the photograph. Mrs. Im. Yes. Do you know what these are? I have my thoughts. Tell me. The envelope has money, American money. The tape I have never seen. The photograph is of the man she was engaged to before Kang. Danielle set the tape and the envelope down and slid the photograph 1 finger to the side. And the child. Mrs. Im looked at the box for a long moment. The child is not hers. Whose? The man was married. To a woman he did not divorce. So the child belonged to that wife. And Sun Hee was the second. Danielle sat down again slowly, in the study chair that had been her father-in-law's. She looked at Adrienne, who had put down the phone. She looked at Mrs. Im, who was standing with her hands folded and her chin low. How long have you known this? Since I came into this house at 22. You never told him. He never asked. Danielle laid the photograph flat against the desk and pressed it lightly with her palm as if to iron it. She did not turn it over. She left it face up because she wanted to see it while she said what she was about to say. Adrienne. Yes. Push the 6 a.m. to 7. Why? Because at 7, I want to add a paragraph. About the second family, about the man on the dock, about what the woman who tried to buy my husband's obedience with a scholarship account was buying. All along. Say it in a sentence I can write. Danielle looked at the photograph. She has been afraid of one story her whole life, she said. That she was never the wife. She built a house of rules to keep from ever being told again that she was not the wife. When I married her son, she looked at me and saw the wife the man on the dock chose over her, coming back through her front door in another woman's skin. That is the sentence. Adrienne wrote it. She did not write it twice. She wrote it once, because the second write was for a decision, and this was not a decision. This was already true. The phone rang again. Ha Jin-ah. Ma'am, the tape. Danielle looked at the box. What tape? The one in the box you are looking at. How do you know I am looking at a box? Mrs. Im told me before she took it upstairs. Ma'am, there is a note inside the case. Danielle picked up the tape case. She opened it. Under the tape, folded once, was a piece of paper the color of very old cream. 2 words in a hand that was not Sunhee's. Play me. Danielle held the paper up so Adrian could see it. Adrian did not read Korean. Danielle translated the 2 words in her head and then out loud. Play me. Adrian looked at the tape. Whose voice? I don't know. When were tapes still made? Long enough ago. Do we have a player? Mrs. Im stepped forward. There is one in the study cabinet, behind the atlas. Danielle stood. She walked to the cabinet. She moved the atlas. The player was there, dust on the top, a red button in the center of the deck. She put the tape in. She did not press play. She turned to Adrian. If this is what she wanted me to find, we do not play it here. Where? Wherever the recording device is not in the same room as the file we are about to send to Reuters. Adrian nodded. Danielle took the tape back out of the deck, put it in her jacket pocket, closed the cabinet, and slid the atlas back. She turned to Mrs. Im. Please make tea, for yourself. Sit in the kitchen, not in the salon, not in the study, in the kitchen, in the chair by the door. Mrs. Im left. Adrian began to gather the folders. Danielle went to the window one more time. The sky above the garden had turned a color she did not have a word for. She dialed the number she had not dialed since the elevator. Suite 4102, please. 3 rings, then his voice. Yes. She did not say hello. She said one sentence. Get dressed. A car will bring you to the study at 6. He breathed on the line the way a man breathes when he has been waiting for an instruction he was afraid to be given. Yes. She hung up. She turned around. Adrian was watching her. Are you sure? I am sure I want him in the room when we play the tape. Why? Danielle laid her hand on the jacket pocket that held the cassette. She felt its weight, small and cheap and old, and she felt, under it, the shape of the ring she had left on a marble dresser 12 hours earlier, that Mrs. Im had picked up at 4 and slid into her pocket without asking, and that now waited, cool and simple, in the inside pouch of Danielle's jacket, where the tape case pressed against it through the lining. Because, she said, if his mother's voice is on that tape, I want him to hear it before Reuters does. Adrian set her pen down on the green file and looked at Danielle for a long second before she answered. Then he hears it, but the door stays open. The door stays open, Danielle agreed. The study smelled of cold coffee and the faint mineral trace of the sea coming in through a window Mrs. Im had cracked at some point in the night. Outside, the first gray of morning had not yet lifted off the water. Danielle placed the cassette on the desk beside the port photograph. She lined them up the way one lines up evidence for a jury. Object, image, silence. Chung's headlights swept the drive at 5:52. Danielle stayed at the desk. She counted the seconds between the sound of the engine cutting and the sound of the front door opening. 19. He was walking slowly. Ji-hoon stepped into the study without knocking. He had come in the charcoal suit from the boardroom, unpressed now, the collar of his shirt open at the throat. He had not slept. She could see that in the way his hand rested on the doorframe for balance, he refused to admit needing. Sit down, she said. He looked at Adrian, who stayed seated. He looked at the desk. He sat. Danielle turned the port photograph so the image faced him. She did not push it across. She simply turned it. Ji-hoon reached, then stopped his hand short. Who is that? Your mother, Danielle said. Around 30, maybe younger. Where? A port. Mrs. Im thinks Mokpo. She wasn't sure. He looked at the child. He looked at the man. His mouth did the small thing it did when he was arranging a face. Danielle had seen that motion in 4 years of dinners. She had always thought it was concentration. She now understood it was concealment learned in a house that taught concealment before it taught language. Whose child? His, from his first marriage, which had not ended. He set his hand flat on the desk. He did not lift the photograph. Mrs. Im has known for 22 years, Danielle said. She kept it because she thought one day someone in this house would need to understand your mother instead of only fearing her. She gave it to me at 4 in the morning. Understand her, not forgive her. He nodded once, small. He was looking at the child's shoes in the picture. Small leather shoes with a strap. Danielle wondered what he was seeing that she could not see. She placed her palm on the cassette. There was a note inside the case. 2 words in Korean. Play me. The handwriting is not hers. Then whose? That is what we are about to find out. Adrian stood then, quietly, and crossed to the armoire where the atlas sat. She brought back the small silver player Danielle had found at 4:15. It was older than the desk. The rubber of the buttons had gone soft. She placed it between them. You do not have to be here for this, Danielle said. Yes, Ji-hoon said. I do. Once it plays, it plays. I am not stopping it in the middle. Play it? Danielle slid the cassette in. The mechanism accepted it with a click that felt too domestic for the moment. She pressed play. There were 4 seconds of tape hiss. Then a woman's voice, clear, older, controlled. Sun-hee. If you are listening to this, then I misjudged the timing of my exit. Ji-hoon's hand closed on the arm of the chair. You must understand that everything I did for the family. The Kang name did not survive 4 generations because the women in it were sentimental. The tape ran on. Sun-hee's voice was steady in the way of a woman reading a prepared page. She named the wires, she named the dates, she named Yuna, she named her own logic. The woman upstairs, Danielle, was foreign and would leave, and the boy would need to be protected from himself when she did. She said it without heat, as if reciting the weather. Then, at the 2-minute mark, she said the sentence Danielle had been listening for from the first hiss. I told the girl to record. I told her the American way is to keep insurance. She believed me. Ji-hoon's jaw shifted once. The tape ran on. Sun-hee began another paragraph about the ancestral house at Andong and the necessity of a foundation for the preservation of family objects. And then, mid-sentence, another voice cut across hers in a whisper that had not been meant for the microphone. A younger voice, male, careful. Auntie, the timer is still going. The tape hissed. Sun-hee said, low, in Korean. Stop it. Rewind 3 seconds. Then the click of the machine being handled roughly. Then dead air. Adrian pressed stop. She looked at Danielle. That was not a note she wrote to herself, Adrian said. No. That was a rehearsal. Yes. Ji-hoon had gone still. Danielle watched his face without pretending otherwise. He was doing the arranging thing again, and this time she let him. The male voice, she said. Do you know it? No. Look at me. He did. Do you know it? No, Danielle, I do not. She believed him. This was new information for her, and she catalogued it with the same care she had catalogued the 6 wires, the calendar coincidences, the port photograph. She had prepared herself for the possibility that he had known. He had not. That did not restore him to her. It only rearranged which room in her mind he lived in. Who calls her auntie? Adrian said. A cousin's son, Ji-hoon said. His voice had gone thinner. Or the son of a friend she counted as family. There are 7 or 8 who use that word. Names, Danielle said. He gave 4. Adrian wrote them down. He gave 3 more. She wrote them down. The 7th name he said, and then paused before the 8th. Danielle did not prompt. He said the 8th name, and then closed his hand into a shape and opened it. There is another, he said. Who? My cousin Min Jun. He runs the archive at Andong. He is 31. He grew up in her house from age 8. Adrian underlined the name twice. Danielle stood. She walked to the window that faced the drive. Chung was still down there beside the car. The sky had turned from gray to the paler gray that comes before a coastal dawn. She spoke without turning around. The wire release is at 7. We add 1 line. We say a cassette recording was recovered, in which Kang Sun-hee, chair of the foundation, describes the wires and names a second party involved in the record keeping. We do not name Min Jun. Not yet. Because? Adrian said. Because if he does not know we have him, he will run toward us instead of away. He will call her. He will try. She is in custody at Toll Gate 3. He will try Andong. Andong will be quiet. He will try the house. The house will be quiet. He will drive. Adrian wrote 3 notes and made 2 calls. In one of them, she spoke Korean well enough that Ji-hoon lifted his head. When she ended the call, she said, Cars at Andong Airstrip and at the 2 roads out of the archive. Good. Ji-hoon had not moved from the chair. He was looking at the cassette player as if it might speak again. You wanted to know why the timing, Danielle said. The timing is because your mother has spent 30 years teaching everyone in her orbit that a Kang woman is not a Kang woman until she has produced a son. She has not produced one. She married the man she thought she had won. She had not won him. He kept the wife he had. She raised the wife's child and pretended she had not. Ji-hoon's mouth moved. He is not your cousin, Danielle said. He is your brother by half, the child in the photograph. Adrian looked up sharply from her notebook. Danielle had not told her that yet. Danielle had worked it out at 4:30 and set it aside because the door had opened and Mrs. Im had come in with tea. Minjun, Ji-hoon said. Minjun. He closed his eyes. Mrs. Im does not know that part, Danielle said. That part I worked out from the shoes. The strap on the child's shoes in the port photograph is the same strap I saw on a boy in a picture on your mother's escritoire in the small salon. The picture was labeled cousin. It is not. He put both hands on the desk and lowered his head until his forehead almost touched them. He did not cry. He breathed through his nose in the specific way of a man who has been told a thing that reorganizes 20 years of memory and is trying not to let the reorganization show. Danielle let him have the silence. Adrian, quietly, went out to the hall to make the wire release edit. I need to ask you a question, Danielle said, still at the window. Ask. Did you know she paid the doctor? No. Did you know she chose Yuna? He was slow to answer. I knew she had opinions about the girl, he said. I did not know the girl belonged to her plan. I told myself she had introduced us because she thought the girl was beautiful. You told yourself? Yes. Ji-hoon. He lifted his head. That is the answer that makes you unfit to run the group. Not the girl. The girl I could survive. The telling yourself. That is what I could not. He nodded. He was not arguing. He had lost the shape of a man who argued. I am filing today, she said. Adultery, fraud, conspiracy and theft of charitable assets. The papers were drafted last night. You will be served at 9. All right. The name, she said. You get to keep it on the personal side, not on the corporate side. Kang the man is still Kang the man. Kang the group is Kang Harper now. When the release goes at 7, the letterhead is different. All right? I am not vindictive, Ji-hoon. I am only accurate. I know. She turned from the window. He was looking at her the way she had once caught him looking at her on the balcony in Jeju 4 years ago, before the dragon had a meaning, before the word patience had been used to make her wait for things that were being spent behind her back. I loved you, he said. She let the sentence sit. I know you did. It was not enough. He nodded. There was a knock at the study door. Mrs. Im, without waiting, opened it a hand's width. The lawyer says the release is edited. She wants you to look. 2 minutes. Mrs. Im nodded and closed the door. Ji-hoon stood. He was steadier now, in the strange way of a man who has stopped hiding from a piece of his own life. Danielle? Yes? What do I do? You go to the Hyatt. You stay in the suite. You do not call your mother. You do not call Min-jun if he calls you, and he will call you. You give the phone to the officer at the door. At 9 you accept service. At 10 you meet with a lawyer of your choice, not mine. At noon you sleep, because you have not. And a man who has not slept signs things he should not sign. And then you make one decision that is your own and not hers. And you live with it. That is what I did 4 years ago, and it is what you have never done. He looked at her a long time, then he turned and went out. She heard the front door, and then the car door, and then Chung's engine. Adrian came back in with the release. Danielle read it standing. Kang Harper Group announced this morning a restructuring of executive authority. Effective immediately, Danielle Harper assumes the position of chair of shareholders with operational authority across all group entities. Kang Ji-hoon resigns as chief executive. Concurrently, the group has filed criminal complaints in Seoul relating to the misappropriation of approximately 3.1 million United States dollars from the Kang Harper Foundation for Black Women Entrepreneurs. Kang Sun-hee, former chair of the foundation, has been taken into custody. A cassette recording recovered from her personal effects contains statements consistent with the wires and names a second individual involved in the record-keeping, whose identity is being confirmed. The foundation's annual budget will be tripled effective the coming board meeting. All accepted grants remain in force. All applicants previously declined without written cause will be re-reviewed within 30 days. Danielle put the paper down. Cut approximately. It is 3.1. Say 3.1. Adrian struck the word with a pen. Send it at 7. 7 exact. Good. The two women stood a moment on either side of the desk. Adrian was the only person in this house who had known Danielle before Kang, before the word wife had entered the conversation. Danielle looked at her, and Adrian looked back, and neither of them said anything, because the sentence they would have said, they had already said, 12 years ago, at law school, over a bottle of red on a fire escape in New Haven. The sentence had been, "We do not become small for men who cannot become large." Adrian went back to the hall to send the release. Danielle sat at the desk. She opened the drawer where the port photograph now lived. She placed the cassette in beside it. She closed the drawer. She turned the key. Mrs. Im came in with tea. Danielle did not want tea. She let her set it down anyway. Mrs. Im hovered. Sukja. Yes. You have known 30 years. 22. 22. I did not know how to tell you without becoming the person who told. I know. Mrs. Im's eyes shone but held. The other boy, Min Jun. He called at 5:20. I did not answer. Danielle went very still. Say that again. The house line. The one in the pantry. He called it. I saw the number on the screen. I did not pick up. Sukja. Yes. Pick up next time. Yes. Do not say anything. Let him talk. Yes. Danielle looked at her watch. 6:41. She stood. She stood. She walked out to the hall. Adrian looked up from her phone. Min Jun called the house line at 5:20. Mrs. Im did not answer. Adrian exhaled once through her nose. He will call again. He will. Do we want him to reach us? We want him to reach Mrs. Im, and we want Mrs. Im to sound exactly the way she has sounded to him for 20 years. Tired, loyal, in the middle of preparing tea. All right. And when he asks where his auntie is, Mrs. Im says she does not know. All right. And when he asks whether the American woman is home, Mrs. Im says the American woman went to the office at 4. All right. And then she sets the phone down and calls me. All right. Adrian started to say something else, then held it. Say it. You are enjoying this. Danielle considered the word. No. I am useful for the first time since I put the ring on. That is different from enjoyment. Adrian allowed herself the smallest smile any officer of the court has ever allowed a friend at 6:42 in the morning. At 6:52, Ha-Jin-Ah called from the basement. Wire 7 had cleared. 3.9, not 3.1. The record was now official. Danielle instructed Adrian to hold the release the extra minute needed to change the number. At 6:59, Adrian pressed send. At 7, precisely 3 wire services began to move the same story on 3 continents. At 7:04, Reuters was the first to add the phrase, "Black women entrepreneurs," into a headline that reached a woman in Atlanta who had been declined a grant 2 years earlier without a stated reason. The woman would be one of the first calls Danielle took at 8. At 7:11, Sun Hee was formally charged at a district station on the coastal road south of Ulsan. She asked, for the 3rd time, to call her son. She was informed, for the 3rd time, that she could call her lawyer. She chose not to. At 7:20, the second cassette recording of the morning, the one Yuna had claimed to possess, was retrieved by the Yongsan detective from a locker at a bathhouse in Itaewon. It contained approximately 11 minutes of conversation between Yuna and Sun Hee, dated 4 months earlier. In it, Sun Hee instructed Yuna to keep copies of the wire confirmations in a place Yuna alone knew. Yuna, on the tape, asked why. Sun Hee said, "Because one day the American woman will want to burn me. If she does, I will burn her son, and you will help." Yuna said, "And me?" Sun Hee said, "You keep the pearls." Adrian, standing in Danielle's hallway with the transcript coming in over her phone in real time, said, "There it is." Danielle read the transcript twice. She did not react to the sentence about the son. She read the sentence about the pearls 3 times. Adrian, yes? There is a set of pearls in the safe in my dressing room, a 3-strand from the wedding. She gave them to me the morning of the ceremony. She said they had been hers as a bride. They had not. They had been Yuna's payment. Yes. Danielle went up the west stair to the dressing room she had not entered since 3 the previous afternoon. She opened the safe. The pearls sat in the box where they had always sat. She lifted the box. She carried it downstairs and gave it to Adrian. Photograph it as it is, then log it into the evidence chain. It is a payment, not a wedding gift, and the tax authority will care as much as the criminal court. Understood. At 7:31, Min Jun called Mrs. Im on the pantry line. Mrs. Im answered on the 4th ring and said hello in the tired voice of a woman who had been at the stove since 5. Min Jun asked where his auntie was. Mrs. Im said she did not know. Min Jun asked whether the American woman was home. Mrs. Im said the American woman had gone to the office at 4. Min Jun asked whether anyone had come to the house. Mrs. Im said only a delivery of vegetables. Min Jun asked whether the vegetables were the ones his auntie ordered. Mrs. Im said yes. Min Jun thanked her and hung up. Mrs. Im walked to the study, set the pantry phone down, and said to Danielle, "He is coming here." Danielle nodded. "How do you know?" "The vegetables." He asked whether they were the ones she ordered. "She did not order any this week." He knew that. He was testing whether I would lie for her. He is coming to see what needs to be moved before you get home. When? He was in a car. There was road behind him. Andong is 3 hours. So by 10. Sooner if he speeds. Danielle looked at Adrian. Adrian was already dialing. Park Do-yun, and 2 more in the small salon, out of view. If he comes in from the pantry stair, he will use the panel. Let him. Let him get to the salon, then close the panel behind him. Yes. No hands on him. No hands. He walks out with cuffs from the officer, not from the guard. Yes. Danielle set her hand on the desk. She looked at the drawer where the photograph and the cassette were now locked. She looked at Mrs. Im, who was still standing in the doorway with the pantry phone in her hand. Sukja. Yes. Sit down. I am fine. Sit. Mrs. Im sat on the ottoman by the study door, the way a woman sits who has been on her feet since 4 the previous morning and has been asked, for the first time in 33 years in this house, to be a person and not a role. Danielle went to her, knelt, and took the pantry phone from her hand. She placed it on the small table. Then she took Mrs. Im's hand in hers. You have been the only person in this house who told me the truth even when the truth was ugly. From today, you are not the housekeeper. You are the director of household affairs. You draw a salary the board approves. Your quarters are the east wing. Your first job is to interview a new staff, because none of the current staff except you will be here by Friday. Mrs. Im did not answer at once. Her mouth trembled once. She controlled it. Yes, she said. Yes. Danielle stood. At 7:52, the story had reached New York and Lagos. At 8:09, a woman in Accra, who had once eaten in Danielle's mother's kitchen, sent a message that said only, "We saw you." At 8:15, the Foundation Board of Trustees convened by video from 3 cities. At 8:19, Danielle formally requested a vote to triple the annual budget. It passed unanimously in under 2 minutes. At 8:44, Ha-jin-ah called from the tower. She had still not slept. Danielle told her, again, to sleep. Ha-jin-ah said she would sleep at noon. Danielle said noon. Ha-jin-ah said, before hanging up, "Miss Harper, the office with the window on the 38th. Which wall do I choose?" Danielle laughed. It surprised her, the laugh. It was the first one since the door of the master bedroom yesterday afternoon. South wall. You want the light in the afternoon. That is when the hard calls come. South wall. South wall. She hung up. At 9:01, a car came up the drive. Adrian watched from the hall window. It was not Chung. It was a plain sedan Danielle did not recognize. "Minjun early," Adrian said. Danielle came to the window. She looked. The car stopped. A man got out. He was in his early 30s, in a gray coat, and he was carrying a leather folder under his arm. He glanced once at the front door and then walked around the side of the house toward the pantry. Danielle stepped back from the window. "Get Park in the salon now. He is walking straight to the panel." Adrian said one word into her phone. Danielle heard footsteps move somewhere below the study floor. Then she waited. The house went quiet in the way it had learned to be quiet in her 4 years in it. Somewhere below, a panel opened and closed. A man walked into a room he thought was empty. A room that had, until 18 hours ago, been a room where his auntie waited for a plan to arrive. Danielle stood in the middle of the study, hands loose at her sides, and listened. The tape had played. The pearls were logged, the wires were public, the sun was coming into the salon, the mother was in a cell on the coastal road, the husband was in a suite in Yongsan, the lawyer was on the phone, the housekeeper was sitting on the ottoman with her back straight for the first time in 33 years. And somewhere, in the small salon under the mountain painting, where a bracelet of imperial jade still lay untouched on the tea table, a young man was setting down a leather folder and beginning to understand that the room he had walked into was not the room he had expected. Below, a voice she did not recognize said, in Korean, "Auntie?" And then the sound of a door closing behind him. Danielle moved to the top of the pantry stair and stopped one step above the landing. Adrian came behind her without a sound. Mrs. Im stayed at the ottoman with the pantry phone in her lap, because that was the post Danielle had given her, and Mrs. Im had learned in 33 years of that house never to abandon a post. Below, in the small salon, Minjun said the word again. "Auntie." Softer this time. He was waiting for an answer from the chair under the mountain painting. Park Do-yeon stood 3 meters behind him, against the west wall, between the second console and the door to the hall. 2 other guards were behind the folding screen from Andong. They had been told, in Danielle's exact words, to breathe through the nose and to keep their hands empty. Danielle spoke down the stair. "He is alone." "Yes," Mrs. Im said, without needing to look up. Adrian touched the small of Danielle's back. "Officer, at the drive in 6 minutes." "Then 6 minutes," Danielle said, and went down. She entered the salon from the hall side, not from the pantry side, because she wanted him to see her from the front. The bracelet of imperial jade still lay on the tea table, where Sun He had left it. Danielle passed it without a glance. She stopped in the middle of the room. Minjun turned. He was thin, gray coat, leather satchel across his body. The face was Ji-hoon's mouth on a stranger's bones. She had known it from the sole of a shoe in a photograph, and now the confirmation was standing in front of her, cheap and simple, in her own house. "You are not my aunt," he said. "No." He took a breath through the nose. It was the breath of a man who had rehearsed several sentences and now needed to pick one. She did not give him the room to pick. "You are Kang Min-jun," she said. "You keep the Andong archive. You called Mrs. Im at 5:20 and again at 7:31. You paired a second device to your mother's chair token 6 weeks ago from this room. You are the male voice on the tape." He blinked. The blink was the tell. "Sit down," Danielle said. He sat. He put the leather satchel on his knees like a child holding a school book. Park Do-yeon crossed the room and took the satchel from him with both hands and set it on the console under the mountain painting, out of reach. Minjun watched the satchel go, and something small folded in his shoulders. "What is in it?" Danielle asked. "Papers." "Which papers?" He looked at the bracelet on the tea table. "Hers." "Titles?" "Land," he said. "The house in Andong. 2 shops. She told me to bring them. She said if anything went wrong, I was to bring them and burn them in the fireplace here." Adrian came in from the hall. She did not sit. She stood at Danielle's shoulder with a notebook open. "Say that again for the record," she said. "In English, if you can." Minjun said it again in English. He said it slowly. He was a man who had spent his adult life copying dates onto index cards, and dictation was a shape he understood. Danielle went to the console. She did not open the satchel. She placed her hand flat on the leather for 1 second and lifted it. "You will not burn anything in my fireplace today." "No, madam." "Where is her second phone?" He hesitated. Adrian wrote nothing. Silence was the pressure. "Left inside pocket," he said. "My coat." Park Do-yeon stepped forward. Minjun opened the coat himself, took out a slim black handset with 2 fingers, and placed it on the console beside the satchel. Adrian bagged it without touching the screen. Danielle looked at Minjun for the first time as a person and not as evidence. "Did she raise you?" "Since I was 8. Did you know she was not your aunt?" He was quiet for a long moment. His hands were flat on his thighs. "I found the certificate when I was 19, he said. "In the Andong archive. I was cataloging. I put it back where I found it." "And you kept calling her auntie?" "Yes." "Because that was the arrangement." "Yes." Danielle nodded once. She did not soften. Softness was not the currency of this room. You will go with the officer at the door. You will tell them what you told me. You will tell them about the pairing on the token, the phone, the satchel, and the instruction to burn. You will not lie about the tape. If you lie about the tape, my lawyer will personally see to it that you spend the next 10 years reading briefs instead of index cards. Do you understand? Yes? Good. She turned to Park Do-yoon. Wait for the officer at the drive. Give him the satchel. Give him the phone. Give him the man. She paused. In that order. Park Do-yoon nodded. Danielle walked out of the salon without looking at the bracelet. Adrian caught her in the hall. That was clean. It was necessary. Ji-hoon at 9. I know. Mrs. Im was on the stair with a fresh phone. Yongsan for you. Danielle took the phone. The detective in Yongsan had a voice that had been awake as long as hers. Miss Harper, Miss Seo has just been informed that Mrs. Kang is in custody and that the second cassette has been recovered. She has requested to see you. No. She has also volunteered a name, a banker in Singapore. She says he is the one who told Mrs. Kang how to structure the wires. His name. Lim Woo-jin, 22 years at Standard Charter. His wife is compliance at Kang Shipping Busan. You have him? Singapore police detained him at his home 20 minutes ago on a mutual assistance request from Seoul. His wife is at her office. Prosecutors here are moving on her within the hour. Good. There is one more thing. The detective paused as though he were choosing a word he had never used before. Mrs. Kang has asked to be informed if Mr. Min-jun is arrested. Danielle looked at the bracelet through the open salon door. Tell her when he is booked, not before. She handed the phone back to Mrs. Im. At 8:58, a black sedan turned into the drive. The officer got out with 2 men and a warrant already in a plastic sleeve. Park Do-yoon brought Min-jun out with the satchel and the phone. There were no cuffs on the drive. There were cuffs inside the sedan. The sedan left. The gravel settled. Adrian looked at her watch. 9. Hyatt. I sent it 2 minutes ago. Ji-hoon is being served in the lobby, not the room. My associate will hand him the papers before he can order coffee. Personal service. By a woman. Danielle nodded. It was a small nod, and it was the nod of a woman who had thought about it. She had wanted the papers handed to Ji-hoon by a woman on purpose. Henry Choi came through on the line at 9:04. Wire 8 is fully unwound. Vanuatu shell dissolved on the ledger side an hour ago. Singapore is frozen. The Zurich correspondent has flagged the whole chain. Total return to the foundation account by end of business today, 3.9 million, plus recovery interest. Book it to the general fund, Danielle said. Not the fake sub-account. Close the fake sub-account today. Done at 9. She hung up. Adrian was already on another line to the trustee's chair. Danielle went into the study and shut the door. The photograph of the port was on the desk where she had left it. The tape was in her coat pocket. The ring was in her coat pocket too, in the lining, exactly where Mrs. Im had put it at 4 in the morning. Danielle took the ring out and put it on the desk between the photograph and the empty player. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she opened the second drawer and took out a small padded envelope. She dropped the ring into the envelope. She sealed the envelope. She wrote a single name on it in blue ink. Min-jun. She would send it to the Andong archive with the property titles when the case was over. It was not a kindness. It was not cruelty. It was the ring going to the family it had actually belonged to. She put the envelope inside the safe behind the Andong screen and shut the door with both palms. Her phone rang once. Foundation. Danielle, board is standing by. 2 minutes. She washed her face at the small sink in the corner. She dried it with a towel that smelled like nothing at all. She sat down at the desk. At 9:11, she came on camera to 17 trustees. She did not thank them for coming. She had thanked them the day they took the seats. She said the wire release had gone out at 7 and the wires had cleared at 8, that the foundation was solvent for the first time in 8 months without knowing it had been sick, and that the annual budget was tripling effective today, $9 million. She said the fake sub-account had been closed and every applicant who had been turned down in the last 24 months by that account would receive an outreach call from her office, personally, this week. She said the applicants who had accepted awards from the real fund at the old grant size would have their grants tripled retroactively without paperwork. A trustee in Atlanta cleared his throat. The chair. I am acting chair as of last night, Danielle said. The seat is confirmed at the next annual meeting. Adrian Wallace is interim general counsel to the foundation. She was general counsel to my father for the last 11 years of his life. I trust her judgment above my own on the days when I need to. The trustees said yes. It took less than 2 minutes. Nobody spoke against. At 9:14, she was back in the hall. Mrs. M was on the stair with a teacup that had steam still coming off it. For you. Thank you. For me too? Danielle looked at her. Sit down for the first time in 4 years, Mrs. M. Mrs. M sat on the third step from the bottom, folded her hands on her knees, and drank her tea. Danielle sat one step above her and did the same. They did not speak. It was the only silence Danielle had taken since the tunnel. At 9:22, Adrian came in with her phone against her chest. Ji-hoon. Danielle put the cup down. Alone? Alone. He asked to speak to you for 2 minutes. On camera? On the phone. Danielle took the phone. Danielle? 2 minutes, she said. His voice was low. She could hear a room service cart in the background and the small clean sound of the Hyatt hallway. The papers are with me. Good. I signed them. Good. I am not going to fight you on the corporate side. You cannot. I know. She let the silence do its work. I did not know about the boy, he said. I did not know about the port. I want you to hear me say that once, and I will not say it again. Say it and be done. I did not know. I hear you, he breathed. The tape. Yes. You are giving it to the prosecutors. I have. When? At 7. That is why the press was already on it. That is why. He was quiet again. I asked for one thing at the front desk. I told them if I try to leave before you say to leave, they should call you. That is what you asked. I want you to hear that I did it. I know you did. Danielle. Yes. You are keeping my name in the personal filing. Yes. Why? Because that is the file I do not need to punish. The corporate side is punishment. The personal side is truth. The truth is that you were my husband and you failed. That is enough. He said nothing. 2 minutes are up, she said, and she hung up. Adrian looked at her. Are you all right? No. Do you want a minute? No. They went to the car. Mr. Chung drove them into the city. Danielle read the wire release once, out loud, without emotion, the way her father used to read contracts back to himself. She corrected 2 commas. She sent the corrected version to Reuters as an addendum. She looked out the window at the coastal road and did not think about the tunnel. The morning traffic was thick on the bridge. She let it be thick. She had time now. At 10:41 they reached the tower, Kang Harper Gangnam, 38 floors of gray glass. The Kang lettering on the top had been replaced overnight with Kang Harper in the same font. It had cost $780,000 to fabricate on that timeline. It was worth every one. She rode the elevator to 40. 40 was the executive floor. The CEO suite was empty. It had been empty for a year while Ji-hoon insisted on staying on 38 to be closer to operations, which had been code for staying closer to his mother's tea. A brass plate had been mounted on the outer door at 8 in the morning. Danielle stopped in front of it. Kang Harper Group CEO Danielle Harper. Her name in Korean, below her name in English. She read it twice. Hajjina was standing at the end of the hall with a coffee cup in one hand and a laptop in the other. She had not slept, but she had washed her face. Danielle had recognized that combination in the mirror for the last 12 hours. South wall, Danielle said. Take the corner. Take 2 windows. Move today. Ma'am. I am not ma'am. Miss Harper. Miss Harper is my mother, Danielle. Hajjina smiled with the corners of her mouth. It was the first real smile Danielle had seen from her in 18 months. Danielle. There will be a briefing at 11. You do it. You explain the audit. You explain the timeline. You do not apologize. You do not thank anyone. You state the facts and you take 3 questions and you leave the podium. Yes? Then go home and sleep. Yes. Danielle stepped through the door and closed it behind her. The suite was too big. It was 3 rooms. It was floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 sides. The desk was rosewood, older than her father, older than the building. She had not chosen it. It had come with the corner. She would keep it because keeping it was cheaper than replacing it, and because replacing it would have been a signal she did not need to send. She sat down. She looked at the city. Seoul was awake. The Han was gray. Namsan Tower had a scarf of cloud on it. 20 million people were doing 20 million things, and one of the things they were doing was reading the story of her marriage on their phones. Her phone buzzed. Accra. She let it ring and go to voicemail. The desk had a shallow drawer on the right. She opened it. Jenny had put the Spellman photograph inside overnight. Miss Evans in a new white coat, holding a stethoscope like she was afraid to break it. Danielle propped the photograph against the base of the lamp so that it was the first thing she would see every morning. She took the coat off. She hung it on the hook by the door. The tape was still in the inside pocket. She took the tape out and put it in the same shallow drawer, on top of a folded copy of the wire release. She would keep it there until the trial. After the trial, she would burn it, alone, in the fireplace at Andong that Minjun had meant to burn the titles in. Adrian came in without knocking. Sun Hee's counsel wants a call at 11:30. Refused. He wants to talk about a plea. Refused. He wants to know if you will take a call from her personally. Refused. That is what I told him. I wanted you to hear me say it out loud. Say it again tomorrow. I will. Adrian turned to go. At the door she stopped. The dress. Danielle looked up. What dress? The emerald copy. The one she made for Yuna. The evidence log flagged it in the search of the Cheongdam apartment this morning. Prosecutors want to know what you want done with it. Danielle thought for a moment. Have it burned. With a witness. Log the burn. It does not go in a warehouse. It does not go to a museum. It burns. Today? Today. Adrian nodded once and went out. Mr. Chung's voice came through the desk intercom. Miss Harper, the library at the house. Yes. The book you asked for. Bring it. 5 minutes later, Mrs. Im came in herself with a slim, leather-bound volume in her hands. She had driven up from the coast in the time it took to make one phone call to Ha Jin-ah. She put the book on the desk. Between page 102 and page 103, there was a photograph of a woman in a floral dress standing in a kitchen in Atlanta. Danielle's mother. Mrs. Im said, "Second shelf, behind the atlas. Thank you. I moved it there 4 years ago, the day you brought it into the house, so that no one else would touch it." "Thank you," Danielle said again, and she meant it in a way she had not meant anything all day. Mrs. Im went out. Danielle put the photograph of her mother next to the photograph of Miss Evans. 2 women in white, one in a kitchen, one in a coat. At 11, Ha Jin-ah briefed the press in the lobby of 38. Danielle watched it on the desk monitor with the sound low. Ha Jin-ah did exactly what she had been told. 3 questions. No apology, no thanks. She left the podium at 11:09. The reporters filed out. At 11:15, a courier arrived at 40 with a sealed envelope. Adrian carried it in. Inside was a single sheet from the prosecutor's office in Yongsan. Kang Sun-hee had been formally charged at 11 with fraud, conspiracy to defraud a charitable trust, obstruction, and witness tampering. Seo Yuna had been charged at 11:01 with fraud and conspiracy. Kang Min-jun had been charged at 11:04 with conspiracy and obstruction. Lim Woo-jin had been charged in Singapore at 10:30 local with facilitating money laundering. His wife had been suspended by Kang Shipping Busan at 10:45 and taken in for questioning at 11. Danielle read the sheet twice. She put it in the drawer, on top of the tape. Adrian said, "Anything else?" "The bracelet. Photographed at 10 by prosecutors on site. Logged. Sealed. Good. The salon is being sealed as a scene until Friday. Do it. The house." Danielle looked at her. "The house is mine. He does not come back. Not to pick up clothes, not to pick up a book. His things will be crated by staff, catalogued by Mrs. Im, delivered to the Hyatt suite. He is out of the deed by end of business. My name only." "Understood." Adrian left. At 11:42 the phone rang and it was Jeju. She had not thought about Jeju in a long time. It was the caretaker of the small house on the north coast where she and Ji-hoon had gone once, 4 years ago, in the first weeks. The caretaker asked whether Mr. Kang was coming this month as planned. "No," Danielle said. "Not this month. Not any month." "Yes, madam." "The house is yours to close for the season. Send the keys to my Seoul office." "Yes. Thank you." She hung up. She had said the word thank you 3 times in 1 hour. She was becoming, at last, a woman who could afford it. She got up. She stood at the window. The dragon on Jihoon's neck had been the family joke. Winter and patience, he had said in Jeju, at the small kitchen table, with a bowl of tangerines between them. He had said it as though he owned both winter and patience. She had married a man who thought he owned winter. She looked at Seoul. Winter was hers now, and so was patience. And neither of them belonged to a dragon. Her phone buzzed again. Adrian at the door. Foundation call at noon. The Accra applicant. She said she will not take the call from anyone but you. Put her through at noon exactly. Yes. At noon, the Accra applicant came on. She was 23 years old. She had been rejected by the fake sub-account 8 months ago. Danielle told her, in a voice that did not shake, that the rejection had been fraud, that the fund had never seen her file, that the fund had it now, that the fund was going to triple the original figure, that a plane ticket was already being booked, and that she would be met at Incheon in 3 weeks by a driver named Mr. Chung. The Accra applicant did not cry. Danielle noticed. It was the noticing of one steady woman by another. Miss Harper, the applicant said, in careful English. My mother says thank you. Tell your mother thank you back. Yes. Danielle put the phone down. Adrian was still at the door. She had heard. She said nothing. She did not need to. Danielle sat down at the rosewood desk. She lined the 2 photographs up beside the lamp so that Miss Evans, in her white coat, and Danielle's mother in her floral dress were shoulder to shoulder. Between them she placed the small black notebook, open to the page where 3 names had been written the previous morning. The name at the top had been crossed out first. The name in the middle had been crossed out second. The name at the bottom had been crossed out last, in a straight, calm line, without pressing hard. She closed the notebook. She looked at the city one more time. The morning light was on the Han. The wire release was in 12 languages by now. Jihoon was in a suite alone, with papers he had already signed. Sun-hee was in a cell south of Ulsan, with a rice tray she would not touch. Yuna was in Yongsan with a lawyer she had not yet decided to trust. Min-jun was on a bench in a corridor waiting for his own lawyer to arrive from Andong. Mrs. Im was on the train back down the coast to close the house for the week. Ha-jin-ah was asleep on the couch in her new corner office with the south wall behind her. Henry Choi was in the basement of 38, moving the last of the recovered funds into the Foundation general account. Mr. Yoon was in a study in Seongbuk-dong with a small glass of something clear, alone, thinking. 20 million people were doing 20 million things. And on the 40th floor of Kang Harper Gangnam, one woman sat at a rosewood desk older than her father, in front of 2 photographs of 2 women in white, with a small closed notebook between them, and looked out at a city that had not, until this morning, belonged to her. It belonged to her now. She picked up the phone. Jenny, she said, get me the applicants list, all 200. I am starting the calls today. She began at the top. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever poured your name, your money, and your love into a family that quietly decided you would never be one of them? Have you ever held a wedding ring in your hand and understood that the sickness was the lie and the marriage was the symptom? What would you do the morning you finally saw who was really in charge of your own life? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about dignity, karma, and awakening, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.